Hello, welcome to the Brave Podcast. You guys know me. My name is Angelo, aka Exploring with Angelo on YouTube. Here we are with episode number 4, and we got some very interesting talking points, and it might get a little spicy. So, yeah, here we are. I have my co-host here, Moshi.
Co-host with the Moshio.
Moshio.
My name's Mohammed. Everyone calls me Moshio on YouTube and Instagram. And today we're here with
our very special guest, Mike.
How's
Hi,
it
Mike.
going, guys?
Hello.
Nice to see you.
How are
It's a
you
pleasure to
doing?
meet you. Sir.
Absolute pleasure.
So, for those of you who watch my videos on my channels, you may remember Mike. He was on the vlog channel for I think about 4 videos or something like that. Basically, when Mike and I went to Alberta for his amazing wedding. But before that, I think it was like probably 17 years before that, Mike and I met in high school. Do you remember that?
I remember.
Okay.
I remember curly-haired Angelo.
Yeah, his hair,
Grade
and none of
9.
you really know this, but his hair was a lot longer before.
Oh yeah.
I gotta actually find pictures. We gotta post that on the Instagram.
There's definitely
gotta find
pictures
pictures.
I
of
might have a
it.
few.
Yeah, I have a few shots from like behind, and it was like super long.
No, it was great, man.
So what class did we even meet? Was it math? I think it was the very first class of grade 9.
I think it was math class.
Yeah, Miss
Yeah, it was math
Miss
class.
Clausen.
Yeah.
I think her name was.
I don't know how to pronounce it.
I think that's what
I
it
think so.
was. Yeah, poor lady, man. She had a very bad
Yeah.
time, rough time in high school, but
Yeah.
is what it is. But yeah, all these years later, we are still friends, and we kind of like reconnected at some point. I mean, sometimes you meet people in high school and you just lose contact for a while, and then at some point we just started messaging each other. I think you were replying to some of my things, and we would just like shoot the shit on Instagram, and then we started hanging out again. I think that was like probably 3 years ago, 3.5 years,
About that,
something
yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And we realized that we had a lot in common, and we also had our mutual friend Anthony. We invited him on, but he's not really into doing things like that, so or
Give
like
us some
this.
time.
Yeah, give us some
We'll get
time.
him
Hopefully,
there.
we'll get him on. He's a really good guy, but yeah, it was amazing the trip that you invited us on. The whole occasion was just like spectacular. And you want to maybe talk about like how you felt getting married in like your favorite place in the whole world?
Yeah, it was, to be honest with you, we had this wedding planned here. We were going to do, the Italian wedding at a restaurant or a hall. It was last minute. I didn't know what to expect. I was worried, but the weather was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was 20 degrees and sunny.
Warmer.
Maybe
It was.
warmer.
It was. I remember it was 28, and we were all standing there in our suits, and we were sweating.
We were sweating. I was, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And crying.
Yeah. Hey, man, I think everybody cries on their wedding
It was
day. You
great.
get nervous too. I know you were freaking nervous that
So
morning.
nervous.
It
I was so nervous.
Yeah.
I was happy to have you guys with me. It made it much easier.
Yeah.
That's for sure. It was
Yeah.
snowing the day before.
Oh
It
yeah.
was like flurries, rain. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, we were like, "Oh, dude, what is going on here?" I mean, we were heading up into the mountains. So for those of you that don't know, Banff, Alberta, which is literally in the picture behind me, I can't move the camera angle right now. Banff, Alberta is essentially the mountains in Western Canada. It stretches from Alberta all the way into BC, and it is just amazing there. There's a place called Lake Louise. After the show, if you want to look it up, or maybe just go and watch the vlogs that I created on the place. I have literally the most amazing drone shots that I did not have to edit. So when I usually fly the drone and I use it for the videos, a lot of times I'll do something called color correction just to make the colors look more accurate, because I feel like all the times on the drone they're dull. That was the only video in existence of flying over Lake Louise that I have never had to alter the color of the water, because it's just so blue, and even seeing it in person, it's marvelous. I
beautiful.
highly recommend Moshi goes sometime. Take the wife.
I would
and the
love
daughter.
to. Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of places that I want to visit in Canada, and that's absolutely high on the list.
Oh yeah, definitely. So, thanks for that. But yeah, we had a lot of. What was your most favorite experience on that whole trip? I know it was kind of short and it was very busy with everything going on. But what was your favorite experience?
You're right. It was very busy. I think my favorite experience was the gondola.
The gondola?
Watching you guys freak out a little bit was good. It was good.
I don't like heights, and I'm just like freaking out the entire time. I have it all on camera, so if you guys want to see it, then just go and watch those videos. But yeah, you get. I got used to it after a little while, but once we got to the top, I'm like, okay, this is still pretty scary, but it's I'm having a good time. Like the views are just absolutely incredible.
Beautiful views.
Yeah, and all the food that we had there, and
Exotic meat.
oh my god, yeah. So we went to this
What's
one place.
exotic meats? I want to hear that.
So we went to this one place. What was it called?
The Grizzly Steakhouse.
The Grizzly
Banff.
Steakhouse. So
Fantastic.
when we first got pulled into Banff, because we were staying in Airdrie in near Calgary, so we pulled into Banff. That day was super cold. It was windy. That was the day it was snowing, right?
Yeah.
This was the day before the wedding. We're pulling into Banff, and we stopped in Banff Village, and it's just like really cool. It's like all these like really cool. It just has this aesthetic look to it. It's very lodge looking, and everything kind of looks like cottagey type of thing. And then you're just completely surrounded in mountains and glaciers and all sorts of cool stuff. And we're walking through the town, just kind of looking around, and we passed this one restaurant, and that's the restaurant that Mike's like, we're gonna eat here before we leave.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, cool. I'm like, what do they have? He's like, alligator,
Ooh.
kangaroo, rattlesnake.
man.
But yeah, so we didn't have time that day. I think we ended up eating at like a Greek place or something, which
Yeah.
was also very good.
Yeah.
So we ate at the Greek place, and then after that, we ended up going towards Lake Louise. We stayed at not the what was the fancy place,
The Fairmont.
the Fairmont.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Fairmont.
So the Fairmont's absolutely gorgeous, beautiful hotel. Only problem is that it was like what, $1,200 a night or something
Ridiculous.
stupid.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it was insane. So Mike was like, yeah, I'm not going to make anybody do that. So we ended up staying at another place that was nearby, which was perfect. Like it was a great place. So then,
5-minute walk.
Yep, 5-minute walk away from the other hotel. And then the day of the wedding, Mike didn't realize I was filming the entire time on my phone because I had planned, I'm like, I'm going to put a really nice wedding video together for him afterwards. And then I posted it on the vlog and stuff. But yeah, basically the day of the wedding, we walked over to Lake Louise. We got married in spectacular fashion next to the very blue lake, which kind of looks like the one behind me, but much more blue than in this actual picture.
Yeah.
And then we went back to the resort and basically got wasted.
We did.
Right? Yeah, we got
We
pretty
did.
wasted. We had a good time.
Is that the
was
perfect
fun.
ending to a great wedding day?
Absolutely. Yeah, so we did all that, and then the next day is when we stopped again in Banff Village to the exotic meat place. And what did we even eat there?
We
I don't
had some
even know.
ostrich.
Ostrich,
We had
Wow.
buffalo,
frog,
mm-hmm. Kangaroo,
bison, kangaroo.
bison, kangaroo.
And
Is
it
it
was
like
all
a platter
fondue.
of like so many meats? Or?
Yeah, so how they do it, it's amazing. So there's two ways that they'll do it. They'll bring you either basically it's like a flat top, almost like a griddle kind of.
Yeah.
That's how I would describe it. And they bring you like this garlicky. So first they do fondue. So they bring you bread, and then they bring you cheese, and you put it in the thing, and you melt the cheese, and you basically cut up little pieces of garlic, put it on the bread, put the bread
You're
in the
drilling right now.
cheese,
Oh,
and
That's
and you
awesome.
just start munching away, and it was amazing. Then they brought out the meats, right? So you can order different platters. So our platter was supposed to have rattlesnake, but unfortunately they didn't have any. And I really wanted to try it and get some revenge after what had happened to me in New Mexico with all the rattlesnakes. I was ready. I was ready to eat rattlesnake. That's what I wanted. Okay, I went all the way to Banff because I wanted rattlesnake. No, I'm just joking. But yeah, so I was ready to try rattlesnake. Unfortunately, they didn't have it. They explained that apparently rattlesnakes are an endangered species all of a sudden. I'm like, so that's fine. Let them be. Let them go endangered. Who cares, right? But yeah, whatever. So they bring out. So what was it? They have the flat stone top. What was the other option? I don't even remember anymore.
It was a hot stone. Cook it on the hot stone.
Yeah.
Or I believe if you want, they'll cook it for you.
Yeah.
Some people are freaked out a little bit. They want them to cook it. But we
Yeah.
cooked it ourselves. We had the hot stones. We had the fondue.
Oh man,
It was great. It was great.
Yeah.
Different. Very different.
Yeah.
Definitely not for anybody, but
Are they
Awesome.
very like your typical gamey meats? Is that kind of
Kind
what
of,
would what is the what'd you say, crocodile, alligator?
I think
What
it
is
was
that like?
alligator.
it was Ali.
Alligator is
that like?
delicious. It's
Yeah?
kind of like the texture I would describe as kind of very similar, a little bit chewier than chicken.
like a greasy chicken.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I would have assumed, actually, something like that.
Yeah, it has its own flavor because everybody's like, it tastes like chicken. I'm like, no, none of this tastes like chicken. Whenever people describe something as something else, I think to them that's the closest thing psychologically that they could somehow classify it as, but no, it doesn't taste like chicken at all. It tastes like alligator, right? So, and I've had alligator again after that too in, where the heck was I? Somewhere in Texas. Galveston. I was in Galveston, Texas. We went for gumbo and they had these things called alligator bites. So they basically batter them and then deep fry them. Oh, so good.
Delicious.
But yeah, that place was amazing. There was another day we had we ate at the hotel, the Fairmont.
Yep.
We had a bison ribeye, which I'd never had before, and it was, oh my god, so good.
Delicious.
Yeah, bison is like super popular in Alberta. Alberta's really well known for their meats, especially their beef.
Alberta beef, man.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people claim that Alberta has the best beef in the world, and I'd put it up there. Yeah, I would definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but that was one crazy adventure. The gondola ride was scary as all hell because I hate heights. Yeah, I hate heights, but coming back down wasn't so bad. Yeah, so definitely go to Alberta because that's a good time.
How did you decide Alberta? Just because it was so pretty? Is that kind of the idea? Do you have history there? Do you have love there?
Where it stemmed is we have some really close friends that moved to Alberta. They just recently had some babies, so we really wanted them to be at our wedding. We wanted a small wedding. We're like, you know what? Banff is beautiful. You get your good friends there, the new babies, they're twins, and we want some good scenery, some good pictures, and I think it worked out great.
Oh,
yeah,
great,
yeah, beautiful. Oh man, yeah. You guys got to watch those videos.
Definitely,
they're really pretty.
I would say amazing, very tear jerking. Right, Mike?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I said I wasn't going to cry at my wedding. I lied.
Yeah, right. Oh, my God.
I lied.
But, yeah, amazing place. And we are going back soon, actually. Towards the end of the month, we are going to head back to Alberta, probably spend a day or two in Banff. Maybe go see Lake Moraine this time, which apparently we have to get there at like 4 o'clock in the morning because the parking lot's too small and so many people go. Yeah. So, yeah, we got to get there super early. And then we're also going to BC.
Nice.
Yeah. So
a road trip.
Yeah. So it should be a lot of fun. We're flying out there because you guys know normally I drive everywhere, but Alberta is about 36 hours drive,
nonstop,
give or take, nonstop. Yeah. No, I ain't gonna do that this time. So I'm like, yeah, we're flying, the 4 of us, and then maybe a couple other people might join us while we're there, and yeah, it should be a really good time. I've never been to BC, and it looks amazing. And there's this one place that I've been wanting to do for a long time. It's a very specific sanatorium. So I got to see if I can maybe do it with permission. If not, then I'll just, walk right in. Make myself at home, right? Film a cool haunted spot that I've been wanting to do for a very, very long time. And yeah, I think it'll be...
You're going to have to hold your hand, Angelo.
You're going to have to hold my hand?
I have to hold your hand.
So are you coming? If I do the haunted location, are you going to come?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
Why are you scared?
Terrified.
I'm with you, man. I can't do these things that these guys do. I just no, not for me.
Oh my god.
No.
Yeah, it's not for everybody, but I guess that's why people watch me when I do it, because everybody else is too scared to do it themselves. But yeah, speaking about out west, the forest fires. Have you guys smelt it? Okay, today is not so bad. I think it's mostly...
Today was the first day after that I could see the sky.
Right. It has been disgusting. It's been just smelly. It smelled like a giant campfire, and it's on the entire east coast of North America. And the crazy part is that there's all these fires almost all simultaneously happening across the country. We're talking Alberta all the way out west. Then some forest fires happened in Nova Scotia. Then they happened in Quebec, and then apparently there was even some in Northern Ontario. And it's just weird how everything is happening all at the exact same time. And there's been some similarities with everything that's been happening at the exact same time. I didn't want to say it was aliens, but it's definitely aliens. No, I don't think it was aliens. Some people
Crop
are making
circles
up,
catching on fire.
right? There's some people out there claiming that apparently the governments have giant space lasers and they're shooting these space lasers at forests to start all these crazy fires. And, it is maybe plausible if the technology actually exists. I don't know. I don't want to say yes or no.
I guess anything's possible. It's 2023, right?
Right? Exactly. So, yeah, I have no idea. But the one similarity I started noticing at first, and I knew this was coming. Of course, all the governments here in Canada are using it for political points, which is just typical. They're all going, it's climate change. Why is everything climate change? Right?
So how do they connect that? It's so hot that the wood's catching on fire, is that what they're saying?
That's what they were saying. They were saying that it's so dry that it's catching on fire, which is partially true, but it's always dry this time of year, right? Like it's not a new thing. Forest fires have existed in this country for a very long time. And in fact, the occurrences of forest fires since the 1980s have actually reduced up until now. So there are actually less forest fires now than there were, 40, 50 years ago. So that's why I'm kind of like, what are you guys talking about? Like, what do you mean by this climate change thing? And they usually say it for just about everything. Any natural disaster happens. It's very typical that they'll claim that it's climate change. The climate is changing, and at one point, if you guys remember back in the Al Gore days, I don't know if you saw his silly documentary, and I was just like, oh my God, we're all gonna die by like 2012. This was back when like George Bush was in president. You know who Al Gore was, right?
Yeah, I know the name.
Yeah, he was the VP back when Bush was president of the United States, and he made this whole documentary claiming we were basically all gonna die within like the next 10 years or whatever it was. Obviously, it is now 20-something years later when we're all still here and none of us have died from this so-called climate change. At the time, if you remember, they kept calling it global warming. Yeah, it's just hilarious because one day it's really hot and they'll be like, see, I told you, global warming. It's definitely global warming, 100%. And then the next day it's like way colder and they're like, see, it's global cooling now. Now it's global
Has
cooling.
someone said that before? I've never heard global cooling.
They'll make up whatever BS they can to justify it. Anything that happens, they'll say it's climate change. Hence the reason why now we have forest fires and they're claiming it's climate change. That's when they started using the word climate change, because when it's global warming, they can't say it's global cooling. When it's cooling, they can't say it's global warming. So they needed somewhere to kind of define both. So now they called it climate change, whatever that even means, right?
What I will say is where I work is close to the airport. I watch planes take off all day. Yeah. This week, the beginning of the week, you can barely see them taking off. It's not because there's clouds. It's the haze, the smoke, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, the smoke was bad, man.
I've never experienced anything like this that I can remember in Ontario. Yeah. I don't remember. Yeah. Maybe when we were kids. Yeah. I don't know. This is definitely a first for me.
Yeah, it's same as well. I remember I went to go see my grandmother because she's in the hospital at the moment, and she's on the very top floor of a hospital in Toronto. And I'm looking out the window. I even posted on Twitter. I'm like, holy crap! And I know I wasn't even right downtown. I was still pretty far out, and even still, just like looking at, you couldn't see the buildings. Like the skyline was just non-existent. We were seeing all these crazy photos from New York City, where it was just complete yellow orangish kind of thing. I don't know. It's it was pretty weird, like very apocalyptic.
Did you see there's videos from New Yorkers like blaming Canada? Oh, yeah. Did you see the tweet? The tweet from Casey Neistat? Yeah. If you know Casey
I replied
Neistat,
to it. I just said sorry. I said so sorry, man. Sad face.
Casey Neistat, famous YouTuber. He's like, get your shit together, Canada. All the smoke that's down here.
I know. I thought it was pretty funny, but I'm like, dude, like we didn't do it. Well, And that's kind of a segue into the next point.
I
was going to say, we didn't do it on purpose, but...
Might be the aliens.
It might be the aliens. Maybe the aliens did it on purpose, and that's how they get us, right? They're just trying to fumigate us out of here, just like cockroaches or something, right?
A couple of those spy balloons.
The spy balloons. Oh my God, yeah. Well, that's how they had to get us back for blowing them up, right? Well, we didn't even blow them up. The U.S. did, because Canada's just, Canada. But my point was, as it turns out, the forest fires are not climate change. I repeat, not climate change. Let me bring something up here. So I was actually watching something from True North yesterday. I'll bring it up on the screen so you guys can all see what we're looking at the same time.
Is this a Canadian website?
This is a Canadian website, a relatively conservative journalistic website, as far as I know anyways, but ratioed the truth about the Canadian wildfires. And basically, as the wildfires burn across the country, the Trudeau government is once again jumping at the opportunity to use a tragedy to advance their political agenda. And that's kind of why I brought up the point that they're, political points. That's what I call it. Despite the fact that the provincial governments have not concluded why these wildfires were started, the federal government, along with the activist legacy media, already know the culprit. It's the invisible gods of climate change, of course. The reality is climate change has nothing to do with it. In Canada, wildfires have been decreasing since 1990. Pretty much what I said, the 80s, but it was from the 90s. Furthermore, numerous wildfires in Canada this year alone have already been determined to be cause of humans intentionally setting forests ablaze. Arson charges are coming thick and fast for these people across the country. In Quebec, the provincial police are investigating arson as the cause of the Quebec wildfires, which have been the focus of most of the world's media. I guess hence the reason why the Americans are so mad at us for sending a bunch of smoke clouds their way. But all of a sudden, things look awfully similar to how they looked back in 2021. Masks are being recommended, school boards are shutting down outdoor extracurricular, and premiers are delivering daily press conferences to give the media their marching orders. On the latest episode of Ratio, Harrison Faulkner seeks to explain why. So I watched the video last night, and I'm like, it makes a lot of sense. And he was bringing up a lot of data. He was actually saying that there have been people recently since April. We're in early June right now, first week of June just ended. Yeah. In April, there were several people in Alberta. There was one lady, I think the exact number was 27. She was charged with 27 counts of arson.
Ooh.
Yeah.
She's still free? She's walking around.
I honestly, I don't know. I'm not sure what ended up happening. I didn't have the time to look any further because I'm just kind of, I had a long drive last night. So I drove basically almost to Quebec last night and then filmed a haunted jail and then basically drove 5.5 hours back. I got back at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So I have a lot of time in the car. So I listen to a lot of podcasts, news things and whatever, keep myself relatively informed. And he was basically pointing out, he's like, yeah, this lady's been charged with 27 counts of arson in Alberta, and that's only one person. And then somewhere else there was another person that did something like 30-40 counts of whatever arson. And then in Nova Scotia, the police are in the midst of confirming that it was in fact arson as well. And then I think the Quebec police are actually kind of doing the same thing. There's a whole process going on, investigation, and they're basically saying it was most likely arson. They said 15% of them were from lightning, which I don't think lightning has anything to do with climate change as far as I know. I could be wrong, but they're basically just lying as per usual.
Alberta, have they determined that Alberta was arson from this individual?
Yes. So the ones that happened recently, apparently wasn't just that specific person. Some of the ones that started back in April, there was 2 instances in April, then there was one in May, and then there was another now in June. One of the ones I recall hearing was, and I think you might have sent me something about it, there was a group, who was part of the, what were they even a part, parks, and they were firefighters, I think. It was a firefighting crew.
Forest fighting.
Mostly women. Yeah, it was a forest fighting crew, mostly women, and they basically were supposed to do what's called a control burn, where you basically set on fire, a bunch of the old trees. It turns into dark ash, carbon goes back into the ground, and eventually you grow new trees. It's a very common thing. I've seen it. They do it in Florida very often. When we were hiking around a lot of the places, we were noticing there's a lot of burnt things everywhere, and that's what they were doing. They were doing something called a control burn. That's where I had first learned of it. So it's like a very common thing. In this specific scenario in Alberta, apparently they were trying to do a controlled burn, and it just basically went wrong. Like somebody messed up somewhere down the lines, and the whole forest essentially caught on fire. And that was pretty much the gist of it. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Like, is it aliens or not aliens, or just the government lying?
I'm blaming the aliens.
You're blaming
everything.
If only. Do you guys actually think that aliens are real? Like, what's your opinion on it?
I think they probably are. I don't have anything to back it up. I was never probed, as far as I know. But no, why should we be the only ones here? Yeah, I can't imagine that.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Especially if our galaxy is so small compared to the whole universe.
Yeah.
What if there's a multiverse, guys?
And the aliens are just there waiting for us. What do you think, Mike? You think aliens are?
Yeah, I think there's something. What makes us so special, right? There has to be something else.
I don't know. I mean, to me, what makes us so special is God, but I mean, that's just me, right? So I'm not sure like how your perspective is on religion. I consider myself a relatively religious person. I think Moshi does as well. Are you do you consider yourself relatively religious? Catholic? Yeah. By birth, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we just kind of inherited that from our families. But there's always more things to learn. I mean, yeah, exactly. Like, who's to say... There's no limitations, realistically, I don't think, in any of our religions, respectively, that says aliens cannot exist, right? So I was listening to Timcast last night, and Seamus, who is Catholic, he's Irish, so he's extremely Catholic, was bringing that point up. He's like, yeah, I mean, I don't expressly believe that aliens exist, but at the same point, there's no restriction in the Bible or any of our Catholic beliefs that say that aliens can't exist. Who knows?
There's a saying in the Quran. I'm a Muslim, so there's a saying in the Quran that says that Allah is the Lord of all the worlds and all the peoples. So that's like,
really,
yeah, it's not saying planet Earth. It's saying everything, everywhere. Yeah. All the peoples.
Yeah. I mean, just in case they made a mistake and didn't realize like there was a couple people somewhere in another faraway galaxy somewhere, you don't want to not include those people, right? So I guess it kind of makes sense.
Can't discriminate the aliens, man. Don't discriminate the aliens.
Or else they're going to light your farm on fire.
They're starting forest fires and shit. Jesus.
Yeah, so I don't know, man. It's the world, to me, has gone a little bit crazy, and we do have some other topics that we're going to discuss probably later on, which, like I said, are going to be spicy. So I mean, if you're easily offended, maybe just don't watch it, but I don't know. Some of the things are just, I don't know, the whole world, just to me, it looks like it's just going insane. There's so many things happening, and I feel like a lot of it has to do with what the government is doing, which is why I brought up the wildfires in general, because I think it's just, part of it, it's an interesting topic. And why, I don't know if you guys agree with me that they're claiming it's climate change for political points, like to get a one-up on the conservatives, like the liberals, the NDP always say the same thing, to get, the one-up on the conservatives do the same thing to get the one-up on the liberals. Do you think...
How does that go? How does that go with their agenda? What are they trying to do? Like, we're going to fix this, or it's because of these guys? What?
So... what I'm finding constantly is they say these things to instill beliefs or force people to say beliefs in certain circumstances in order to pass legislation which gives them more power, helps them make more money. We know, I mean, I think everybody that I talk to, for the most part, agrees that majority of politicians are corrupt, extremely corrupt. And we're talking about at the municipal level, here in Canada, the provincial level, in the States, the state level, and on the federal level, obviously there as well. And I find all the time, like I mentioned, that majority of people actually agree with me. So to me, it seems that they're constantly saying everything is climate change. Everything's because of climate change. Everything's because of racism. Everything's because of X, Y, or Z. And they always seem to do it to pass certain legislation to basically get what they want, which could be power, money, etc., etc., more power for their party, things like that. So that's kind of why they're just like, oh, well, we'll just use this. What a perfect time. Never let a good crisis go to waste. So we'll just, again, claim that it's climate change, even though it has absolutely nothing to do because it's, you know, Joe threw a cigarette butt in the forest and the forest caught on fire, which is obviously has nothing to do with climate change. So I don't know where you guys are on with that, but that's pretty much where I'm at with it.
Well, let's not forget, I think we're on the cusp of a possible federal election in the next year and a bit. Right. So everything right now is being hyper analyzed more than before.
Yeah.
When did they call the snap election? The Liberals was about a year ago.
I want to say about a year ago. Yeah, I think it was. It would have been end of September was when we had the election. Because I was in Nova Scotia and I came back purposely just so that way I could vote. And then I didn't. And then the funny part was that the party I wanted to vote for, which was the PPC, People's Party of Canada, Maxime Bernier was the leader, wasn't even on the ballot because my representative, because we're a parliamentary system for our American friends that don't understand what the hell I'm talking about, we have individual representative in certain areas, and yeah, that's pretty much like, it's like a riding, they call it. Certain area would be considered a riding. So my representative at the very last second dropped out. So I showed up at the polling station and I'm like, yo, where's the PPC? They're not even on the ballot. Because at the time we had Aaron O'Toole, who was just a complete tool. And I could not justify voting for that guy because he was like voting for liberal lights at the end of the day. And the liberals are just way too far left for my liking. And I'm just like, no, I can't justify it. And I felt like a lot of the things that the Conservative Party of Canada were doing at the time were basically on par with what all the other parties were doing. And the only one who was actually standing up for Canadians at the end of the day was the PPC. Hence why I wanted to vote for them. But unfortunately, they weren't on the ballot. So I was just kind of like, okay, well, what do I do? And she's like, well, you could leave it unmarked. I'm like, okay, take it back. I'm not filling any of this. I can't vote for any of these.
Do they have any seats yet? Do they hold any?
The PPC?
Office?
No. The closest one was Maxime Bernier. He came relatively close in his riding in Quebec.
Okay.
But they have not won a seat. And that's the biggest problem, right? Because a lot of the conservatives in this country do not want to split the vote. So they're like, no, you can't vote for the PPC. You got to vote for the conservatives, right? I'm finding there's like a handful of decent MPs that we have, like that I can name off the top of my head is like Leslyn Lewis. Then you have Pierre Poilievre's okay. I feel like he was better when he was just an MP, but now that he's the leader, I don't know. It seems like he's kind of becoming very establishment type of politician, which I'm not really 100% approving of. But I mean, if it came down to it today, I think maybe I would have to vote for that just to kind of get, Trudeau out of power. But the problem is we have the NDP party, Jagmeet Singh, who is standing in our way. And it's stupid because the dude does nothing but mock and shit all over Justin Trudeau on Twitter.
I noticed that,
right?
yeah.
All the time. That's all he does. Meanwhile, he does whatever Justin Trudeau wants him to do in order to, I don't even know. Like, it doesn't make any sense. They're claiming it's, the NDP will vote for anything that you guys basically want as long as you form this coalition sort of thing.
Alliance.
Yeah, alliance, they call it, which is, it's a joke.
Yeah.
It was for dental care, I think, basically.
I think that was just recently.
Yeah.
And it got, I think, put down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they're saying they're having issues now with the actual budget of the dental care plan. So they made all these promises, of course, and now all of a sudden they're having some sort of issues because I guess maybe the budget can't handle what they originally want, what the NDP party was originally demanding. I don't know.
It only handles so much free stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything free, sure, it's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Who doesn't want to give free dental to someone who needs it? I think it's a fantastic idea.
An idea, and I mean the idea of it.
It's it scares me. Where's the money going to come from, and what's going to go up? Are we really helping someone, or are we just, like you said, trying to gain political points to get to the next level?
I kind of, when I put it into perspective, because I'm a numbers guy, so when you actually do the calculations and you realize that all these dentists doing all these cleaning, they all want to get paid, right? So at bare minimum, let's say if they want to charge $100 for a cleaning, which I think is relatively average for a dental cleaning. Right?
I think so.
Yeah. So let's say you have $100 times, we have 37 million people in this country. Wow. You're talking, what would that even be? $3.7 billion if every person, is that the right math? Yeah, you add the 2 zeros, so it'd be about 3.7 million, I think.
You remember, I wasn't good at math, man.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll run it afterwards, but that's only for one dental cleaning, right? So if everyone in Canada were to get 2 dental cleanings every single year, right? That's like $7 billion.
Were they just trying to pass it for minors and people without benefits, or was it wide open?
To begin with, so as far as I remember reading about it, there was the benefit was essentially for children and I think elderly people to begin with, and then later on they would obviously expand on the program and make it more open for everybody else. But what I was reading is that anybody who makes, I think it was over the highest tax bracket, does not qualify for the dental plan, or will not qualify for the dental plan. I'm like, what the hell? Like, that's so you pay the most in taxes, but you can't even get the benefit. Like, you're paying, it's like paying for something, right? It's like, imagine, you needed a new engine for your car. So you bring the car to the dealership and say, hey, I want to replace the engine. And then when you leave, you paid the bill. When you get home and you pop the hood, you realize it's the same engine that was in there to begin with. And then you're like, hey man, I paid you for the service and the parts and everything, and you didn't do anything, right? They're like, yeah, no, you paid us, but we decided to take your money and pay for everybody else's engines and oil changes and all that stuff. And you're like, what? Like, that doesn't really make any sense, right? But that's just kind of what's happening. That's where Canada has kind of gone. And it's like, I don't totally disagree with everything that's kind of socialized in this country. Like, I appreciate, the universal healthcare. A lot of people like to call it free healthcare. It's not free. We pay for it. That's Everyone pays for it through taxes. And
you can, maybe some Americans don't know, you can't go in Canada to a hospital if you're not, you can go and you can pay out of pocket if you don't have OHIP being the Ontario insurance plan if you're a citizen. Yeah. But without that, you're still paying in Canada. Yeah. And it's not free for anybody.
Yeah. So they just actually recently changed that. I don't know if you knew that.
What happened?
Was it for refugees? So originally it was either refugees or just foreign visitors. So there was people coming to Ontario as a visitor, going to the hospital, getting whatever they needed done, taken care of and fixed, and then eventually they would just leave. They didn't work here, they didn't pay any taxes whatsoever, but they were benefiting off of our system. Recently, as far as I had read, the Ontario government actually just changed that. They just botched the program, which I'm glad they did, because it's like, why should we be paying for all these other people's things?
I believe they started that when COVID kicked off.
Yeah.
I believe it was 2019 when they kicked that off, for sure.
2019, maybe 2020 or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know what the deal is with that stuff, but yeah, that's where I'm kind of at with the dental care system. And it's like, I just feel like our healthcare system in Ontario, at the very least, is bad. I don't know if you guys have been to the hospital recently. It's just bad, right? Like, dealing with my grandmother there, and it seems like you're just waiting forever to get things done. There's people that I know who are in such bad pain, borderline paralyzation, and they cannot get help because they're not in enough pain. That's what they're telling these people, right? You have people who cannot walk, and they can get the problem solved through a simple surgery that they've paid for, that they've paid into for many years through taxes, by working, of course, and they're not getting the service that they need. But meanwhile, you have the federal government who's like, well, at least we have white teeth, right? And it's like, okay, but this lady over here can't even walk, but at least she's got nice teeth, right? Yeah. Because that was priority number one, not fixing our broken healthcare system, which has been a problem for decades, right? And I think If you've ever been to the hospital ever in the last 20 years, it's always been like that. It's always been a freaking problem.
It's almost like you want a bit of privatization.
Maybe.
You want the option. I think Doug Ford, for those of you that don't know, he's our Ontario leader, if you want to call him that. He's trying to start a little bit of privatization. If you have the option, right? If you can't wait and you have the money and you want to pay for it, go ahead. Take some stress off the healthcare system and you get what you need.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be, as like an additional option, it could work, right? Because there's a lot of people, there are people who make a lot of money in Ontario, and those ones could afford some sort of privatized healthcare. Maybe they want to get an insurance. If they're willing to pay, $300-$400 a month to get that insurance, if that's what works for them, then why not, right? But I don't know. And then you have all these people that are like, oh my God, he's going to get rid of universal health care. Why did we vote this big man in? And I don't know. It's just silly.
I don't think that'll ever happen.
That they'll get rid of universal health care?
On a broad spectrum, I don't think so. Not anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't. Okay, so when I speak to a lot of Canadians, I'm not like against universal health care at all. I just hate the fact that it doesn't work and we pay so much money for it, and meanwhile we're throwing all this money into other places that don't make any sense, right? And the feds don't want to improve the healthcare system. So just to put it into perspective, Canada is a G7 country, and since COVID happened, because when COVID happened, I started paying attention a lot more to everything that was happening, and somebody pointed out, I remember looking at the statistics, that Canada was actually the lowest ranked out of all of the G7 countries for the amount of hospital beds per capita. I think it was like 9. So like Japan had like, I don't know, let's say 50 per 1,000 people. We had like 9, right? And if you guys remember during COVID, why they kept saying that we needed to stay in lockdown was so that way the hospitals don't get overrun. The hospitals don't get overrun, which basically happens every year. It wasn't a new thing that they were saying, but everybody was, because you mentioned it, everybody's so hyper focused on it. Everybody's like, no, we can't go to eat dinner tonight at Kelsey's because somebody might get sick and end up in a hospital bed, and they need the hospital beds for other people, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, so they're telling everybody else not to live your life, don't go to work, don't go to church, don't run your business, stay home because we messed up, right? But they weren't saying it like that. But when you look at the statistics and realize that our system is so broken, and it's been broken like this for decades, then you realize, why are these people still even in power at the end of the day? It just doesn't even make sense. Right? Whether conservative, liberal, or NDP, they've all made mistakes, and we're still in the same place. Now COVID is over with, and we're still in the exact same place where we started, right? Where the hospitals are so just have no money whatsoever. They can't hire new people, and we can't afford to get new doctors, right? And all sorts of other problems, and nobody's fixing it. So I don't know. But I guess that's kind of why I eventually would like to move away. Right?
Yeah.
So
what can we compare this to? So tell me about what's like a typical, are all the states typically the same in terms of their healthcare systems? Can we compare us to someone like Florida, someone like Texas, someone like New York? So
from what I've heard, yes, in the American system, you do have to pay for healthcare. You can buy an insurance policy. It's typically relatively expensive. I don't know what like family plans are, but I've heard some people say, they spend $300, $400, $500 a month to fund a private healthcare policy for themselves. But at the end of the day, I'd much rather pay more and actually be able to get service when I need it, instead of being in the system here where I'm paying for it and not getting it at the end of the day, right? And that's probably one of the largest problems that I'm seeing. And a lot of people have pointed out that their systems are fantastic. Like I've heard people mention that in Florida, healthcare is amazing. Like their healthcare system is fantastic. It's all, for the most part, it's a mixture of like privatization and run by the state at the same time. I know Pennsylvania is like the same. I think Pennsylvania actually is run by UPMC, if something like that. It's like a big private company, but they run pretty much all the hospitals. But it's like state of the art stuff, right? And you hear all the time of people, Canadian people, who cannot get surgeries fast enough to the point where they are literally going to die. And they're crossing the border into New York to go and get life-saving surgeries. They're paying for it out of pocket. And they're just like, yeah, come on over. Pay us and we'll do whatever you want in 22 minutes, right? Just line up over there and we'll get you on a gurney and pull you in and get your surgery done. You're good to go, right? And it's like over here, that's not happening. You're telling people who are in pain that they have to wait. And it's like, imagine you were like already struggling before COVID started. And then now that they had, do you remember when they had this, when they decided that it was a great idea to stop surgeries, like day surgeries and outpatient surgeries and stuff like that? So imagine you were like already waiting before that, and then COVID happened and they're like, yeah, you're going to just have to wait another like 5 years to get a kidney or something. And you're like, oh, Dios mío. Like, what am I going to do? Right? So you end up finding a way to pay for it out of pocket by going to the US, even though you've paid for a system that should work for you over here in Canada. So, I mean, that's one thing. But I mean, there's more things than just that make me kind of want to pack my bags and go to the United States. But it's not as easy as saying it and just being able to do it, right? I mean, the process of immigration to the United States is complicated. It's difficult, to say the least. So.
Have you looked into it? What would the process be? So if I'm not mistaken, you're thinking of going to, should I say it?
Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we mentioned it already in one of the episodes. I would be looking at Pittsburgh. Reason why is because, first of all, I know people there. Second of all, it's central to everything that I would need to do and to run my business. Like, we're talking in terms of like locations that I can go and do ghost hunts, and I could go east, there's New York. I could go west, there's like Ohio, Midwest, all that stuff out there. There's tons for me to do business wise, things like that. And I find Pittsburgh is a great city, for one. Like, it's one of my favorite places because people there are very courteous. Not like here. Here, for some reason, everybody's just an asshole. I don't know what the deal is, especially on the road. In Pittsburgh, people I find are very courteous, especially if you're on the outskirts of town. You'll find that people do things like, so for example, you know when you come up to a street and it's a really busy street, it's like just 2-lane road, and let's say you stop and you're waiting to make a left. In Pittsburgh, the people coming will stop when they don't have to and be like, yeah, go ahead. We'll just let you turn. Here, that would never happen.
You get run off the road here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Welcome to Ontario.
Yeah, exactly. Or Quebec. Quebec, they're even worse. Montreal drivers. Oh my God. Have you ever driven in Montreal?
Yep.
Oh my God. It's a disaster. There's just people like drive really fast over there. Here, they would probably say, okay, yeah, go ahead. And then you start going, they'd probably smash into you on purpose for some odd reason. But in Pittsburgh, it's not like that. Everybody's very courteous. For the most part, people are relatively nice, very welcoming to the city. I find it relatively balanced. I would never live in the city. It's just too busy for me. I don't like cities that much. Pittsburgh's not so bad. It's not like too busy. But I wouldn't live in the city. I find it like very politically balanced, whereas just kind of what I see, like, you know, you take a little bit from the left, take a little bit from the right, and, you know, you have a good balance.
Healthy mix.
Yeah, exactly. That's how we've always gotten along. We've always managed to compromise when it comes to policies, beliefs, and all that sort of stuff, right?
So what's out there, maybe Pittsburgh specifically, or anywhere in the U.S. over there, what housing costs. So yeah, like the one thing that would make me kind of possibly think, yeah, maybe that would be a good idea. Moving out there would be a good idea is, you know, here, I'm never, ever, me and my wife, our incomes together, the way we're going now with a kid, with more kids in the future, we're never, the way it's going, be able to afford a house. Yeah. Ever. Until things change.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's it like out? So I think we spoke about this already. Like something like Texas, possibly $300,000-$400,000. You can get a very nice. Yeah, you can get a. Dude. So where you're looking at something over here for $1.5 million in Canadian dollars, yes. Over in the U.S. for $200,000-$300,000, you're getting something equivalent.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Is Pittsburgh the same?
Pittsburgh is relatively, it's probably gone up a little bit because the city is growing very fast. I remember meeting somebody over there, and he works, I think he was an engineer or something, and he was telling me, so kind of a funny story. I'll probably bring it up because it's actually really hilarious. So I remember we got into the subject of like housing and politics and all that stuff, and he was saying how Pittsburgh is going to become a major tech hub for the United States. So originally Pittsburgh was extremely industrialized, and now it's just growing for some reason in the tech sector, which is great. The city's doing fantastic. And he said, buy now. Now is a great time to buy. If you look at certain housing in Pittsburgh, you can find a nice house for like 300 grand US. Like and some people in the US might think that's super expensive, but for us, our average house is what now? 1 million, 1.1 on average. And you're talking, like if you were to go and look at real estate pages in Toronto, you're talking tiny little bunkers, I would call them, at the end of the day, or like a cabin, essentially. Like they're very small places. They're crappy. A lot of them are just definitely in needs of a lot of repairs. Nobody wants that, right? You want a nice house in Toronto? 2 million, 3 million, right? For like a nice home. And we're not even talking big. We're talking like maybe 2,000 square feet max, which is a decent sized home, but it's not a mansion at the end of the day. In Canada, the only place that I can find that would be affordable would be Alberta, right? And I know I've even spoken about it with Mike. Mike would love to move to Alberta in a heartbeat.
We almost
right?
did.
You almost did, but I can see you guys. You and Kat will probably move out there eventually.
Yeah, it came close about a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
I had some conversations with my employer.
Yeah,
the offer was there.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't make it happen. We weren't ready.
Yeah.
Long story short, but going back to the house pricing, it's a provincial issue, I think, because if you go out to Alberta, you go west,
even Nova Scotia,
you go far east, you're in that 300,000 to $500,000 mark for a nice family starter home.
Yeah.
You're not going to get that in Ontario.
No, there's no way.
Not anytime soon. Something bad has to happen.
Yeah.
If these houses are going back down to 300,000-500,000.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's I can't see it happening for an extremely long time, right? I mean, they've created such high inflation. The biggest problem too is you have immigration is so high in this country that there's so many people coming in, obviously looking for housing, but there's not enough housing being built. And that's a major issue. And I think that's kind of happening everywhere. Every province that you look at, everyone's kind of having the same problem. And like, I'm not against immigration, right? I mean, my family are all immigrant. I think all of our families are immigrants, at least within the last 50, 60 years, maybe a little bit longer, right? So I got nothing wrong with immigration. But the problem is that when you have such a high influx of people coming in and you're telling these people, and that's who I feel the worst for, realistically, is people coming here who are clueless and have no idea what the cost of living is in Canada, and they're coming here and they're being told, yeah, go to Canada, come, you'll have a great time, it's amazing here, you're super free. And it's like, yes, Canada is a beautiful country. I think, people are relatively nice depending on where you go. Maybe not in Toronto, but you go to East Coast, you go to Alberta, people are relatively nice, right? But I feel bad for them because they're being told, yeah, just come on over, don't worry about it, right? And then they get here and they're like realizing that they have to work 3-4 jobs just to be able to afford rent at the end of the day.
And not only that, they also have to bunk in houses with 2 or 3 other families. 2 or 3
other families. So my mom's boyfriend works for a major telecom company, and he goes in and he basically installs cables, a lot like the telephone lines and stuff like that, in residential. He's told me before that he goes into some of these houses in the city that I live in Brampton, and he says that he'll go into the basement or anywhere in the house, really. And you know what they're doing? They have drapes, literally like the drapes behind Mike right now, partitioning rooms. And in each, so let's say you go into the basement and they'll have 10 sets of drapes all next to each other with mattresses, pillows, blankets.
That's sad.
And he has to go in there and he has to install each individual phone line or multiple phone lines, whatever, throughout the thing. But just the fact that he's seeing it and it's actually happening here, and it's like, dude, that's terrible. Like, that's a big problem. Like, imagine coming, like, I get it. Like, it's better than maybe being in Syria when there's bombs being dropped on you. I get it, right? Yeah. But you have all these people. The point is that you have all these people coming here and they're looking for housing and you can't find it. Yeah. And the demand is so high and the supply is so short. And it's just been a problem that's been building up for years, right? And like you said, the only place realistically is maybe Alberta and maybe out east, right? But the problem is, something might arise. Maybe somebody doesn't want to, leave their family, or they can't, leave their job, or maybe it's just too expensive to move. And there's all these different hurdles that are stopping people from, moving from one province to the other. It's not that easy, right? No. So it's not as simple as, people tell me all the time, oh, just come to the US, just come and move, right? It's like, yeah, I'd love to, but it's not as easy as just saying it and randomly doing it one day. It's, pretty impossible. Another place I'd love to go to move is Florida, maybe. Florida's beautiful. It's awesome.
You just want to eat more alligator.
I'm going to eat more alligator. It's part of it. Yeah, gator bites. I don't know. I just love the ocean. Alberta would be great. Alberta's beautiful. I just hate the cold, man. As I get older, the cold just gets to me. I can't do it. It's it bugs me. It's
I don't mind the cold.
Not my thing.
You like it?
I don't mind the cold.
You?
Yeah.
Well, you're a skier.
I'm weird.
Yeah.
You are
dark,
weird. I'm a dark, dismal kind of guy sometimes.
Nah, but you're a skier. No, I like looking at winter. I just don't want to be standing outside in the winter. That's right. The only thing. I'm getting a little tired of it. But yeah, I'd rather be in a much warmer climate than where we are here. And I don't know. I just like the ocean. I like seeing palm trees every day. It's pretty freaking awesome. Yeah. Plus, it's you have a little bit more freedom in Florida to do what you want, right? The government kind of more or less leaves you alone, especially in comparison to Canada, right? So it's not full on lawless anarchy out there, but
what do you mean leaves you alone?
You saw it with COVID. So I think the way that Florida handled it was definitely the best way possible in terms of doing it in the most libertarian way, where they respected people's rights. They left the decisions up to people, right? Everyday ordinary people. Whereas I can tell you, Canada did not do that, right? So in Florida, after the first 2 weeks or first month or whatever it is, they said, we're not doing lockdowns anymore. That's done. That's over with. The risk is obviously very high for elderly people or people who have certain illnesses. And if you feel that you need to stay home and, kind of lock yourself down, then that's up to you, right? And I feel like every government kind of should have done the same thing, right? Over here, I think people could take general responsibility for themselves and what they do, right? If you feel you're at risk, or maybe your family member's at risk, then you have to kind of decide which risks you're willing to take at the end of the day. Whereas that's how they left it to people in Florida.
I remember, I think it was 2020. I don't think it was the March that COVID really hit for the first time. I think it was 2020, the March after, spring break in Florida.
Okay.
Yeah. I remember being on lockdown and watching CNN and everyone's partying on the beach. Miami, Florida, kids everywhere. And I'm, what's going on? They're having a good time.
Right.
We're on curbside over here.
Yeah.
It was night and day difference between Florida and Ontario. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, we were locked down the longest.
Yep. Probably in the world, I would say Ontario, most of Canada was locked down for one of the longest periods of time. It was almost 2 years consecutively. I think there was maybe a couple of months in between where they had slowly opened up
and closed us back down.
And then closed us back down. And I remember looking at it and I'm like, dude, this is a seasonal virus. So come a certain month, which would have been September, I think it was around September, just usually when you start seeing people getting the flu, they start getting the colds again. And then it runs from basically September. It peaks roughly around what, January, February. I remember in 2021 when the variant or whatever came out and everyone had it. I think you even had it around that time.
I got it right after my wedding. So we landed from, we came home from Banff. And I was getting off the plane, and I turned to my wife, Kat. I'm like, I'm hot. Like, I'm something wrong. Got home before I even unpacked my luggage.
Yeah.
Swabbed up, positive. And we were leaving for our honeymoon a week and a bit after the wedding. So if anything, it was perfect timing because I had time to recover, and then we went on the honeymoon. But I'm not gonna lie, it was nasty for a good 72 hours. It was nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was your symptoms?
Chest congestion, hardcore chest congestion. I don't know if, since I was a kid, whenever I got sick, whether it was the flu, sniffles, always with my chest. Maybe I'm weak in my chest. But when I got COVID, bad on the chest, right? Respiratory virus. But couple days, I was fine. I was good. Second time, same thing, hard on the chest. And I was a good 72 hours after. But it wasn't fun.
No, that's I heard that from a lot of people. I knew a lot of people that had gotten it.
Did you never get COVID?
No, I never got
Last
it.
one's dead.
How does that even make sense?
You're the one that traveled the most,
Right?
did the most, went out at night at 3 a.m. Yeah, how? So we got it. My wife and I got it while she was pregnant. I got it. Who God knows where I got it from. But for me, it was just a very sore throat. I mean, mostly just a very sore throat for 3-4 days, probably something like that. And after that, fine. Testing positive still.
Yeah.
But fine. Virtually no symptoms.
Yeah.
Of course, there were some people out there who got it much worse. They got the long COVID and all that stuff.
All sorts of different whatever.
Yeah. I mean, this was during lockdown. Like, I was literally going to work and coming home.
Yeah.
How did you not get it?
I honestly, dude, I have no
got it.
idea. Dude, I have absolutely no. I've been to some of like the busiest places you can possibly imagine. Like at some point I went to Vegas. I've been to, went down to Florida multiple times. So when I left back in, I believe it was May of 2021, and I'm just like, I ain't coming back for who knows. Maybe I won't even come back. I don't know. Right?
If you got sick right now, would you test?
If I got sick right now?
If you got sick right now, would you bother testing or no?
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. I mean, I think I'd probably go home and mom would bust my balls to do it. Right? So I'd probably have to. I did get sick. I just never got COVID. Like I got a cold, like, I don't know, a couple months ago, and I tested repeatedly, and I'm just like, no, it's not
just the
not
cold.
COVID. Yeah, it's just the cold, right? And I was still like, I didn't care. I was still working. I was still exercising. Like I don't stop whether I'm sick or not. It doesn't matter, right? So, but yeah, when I left the country back in May of 2021. The reason why I had left was because we were still in lockdown. I'm like, I just can't deal with this anymore. Like it was getting to my head. Everybody was so down and depressed. I don't know if you remember how bad it got, like to people's psyche. It was horrible, right? Yeah. Oh, we'll get through this. We're in this together. My friends, folks, my friends. Remember Premier Doug Ford kept saying that, my friends. And I'm just looking at the TV. I'm like, dude, I ain't your friend. Guy, bro, I'm not your friend.
Yeah, we're in this together. You see the celebrities, Gal Gadot, singing that damn song, that commercial. No, we're not in this together. You're in your mansion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh yeah, we're in this together, guys. It's like, meanwhile, they have a $25 million mansion right on the beach. They could just walk out and do whatever. People bring them everything that they need and some, and it's like, yeah, okay, please. You're like the worst example to try and convince people to try and stay home. Right, so
let's try to support local at the same time, right?
Yeah, please. What,
shut
Walmart?
Down,
everything else
local.
was closed, but Walmart was open. Yeah, support local. Yeah, please, my butt. Right.
Yeah. They had the socks and the underwear taped off at Walmart.
I was just gonna say that.
Remember that?
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah,
you could only buy certain things around the perimeter of the store.
Yeah. There was certain areas. I think it was in Quebec that they. Like non-essential stuff, and then this happened in Ontario after, but I think Quebec started it. So they were the first ones to create those barriers where you only certain things you could buy, non-essential items you couldn't buy. Somehow, in the middle of, I think it was January or February of 2021, the coldest time of the year anywhere in Canada for the most part, especially in like northern Quebec, forget it. You're freezing, you're dying out there. They banned winter hats, winter gloves, and scarves. You could not buy them in store.
You can buy it on Amazon. Amazon made millions.
Amazon
Yeah.
was
Stock
huge.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But imagine you were homeless, you didn't have a credit card.
Mhm.
How are you going to buy something on Amazon? You don't even have an address to deliver it to. I know there's like loopholes that you could figure it out. You could have it dropped off at one of those boxes or whatever. But still, it's like, what? Somebody's homeless. Like, really? I got to wait 24 hours? Oh, I think my toque is arriving today. I got to go and pick it up from the Amazon box when the dollar store is literally right there. It doesn't make any sense, right?
But hey, just trust your government.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Always trust your
They got your
government because
best
they,
interests.
yeah, they're always looking out for your best interests,
Yeah.
of course. But yeah, dude, like that time was crazy. But yeah, I remember I left in 2021 of May and I just never looked back. And then eventually I did come back. But dude, all the places that I went to, a lot of tourist places, lots of museums. I went to Florida 3 times in 2.5 months while I was down there. And I went to go to, what was it, NASA, the big thing in basically near like Orlando. I went there and I was everywhere, man. Everywhere. It was always busy everywhere I would go to because a lot of places in the US were opening back up. And everybody there was happy again. Everybody I was talking to here was miserable because y'all were still in lockdown for another like month and a half after I had left, right? And yeah, I never got COVID. I don't know how, but it
Never
just,
say never.
yeah. I mean, it'll probably happen eventually, but at this point, would you even really know that you have it, right? And so, I mean, it's so dangerous that you got to test yourself to even know you have it, right? But yeah, that was a fun experience. Yeah, I don't know. I just didn't really like the way everything was kind of handled here. Just kind of what I would eventually like to to leave, right? But I know for you were looking at maybe Texas as
Just
an option.
barely looking. So we were, it wasn't a serious search, and it was just kind of like, what's it like out there?
Yeah.
What's it really like? And that's how we came across the housing prices and stuff out there.
It's
Like
shocking.
we're looking for certain types of communities if we were ever, and we're not looking right now. But if, it's just research. And
Yeah.
Texas seemed like a good option.
It is.
Once I saw the pricing.
Yeah. What I like about Texas is just the whole idea of Southern hospitality.
Yeah.
They got it. Like everyone in Texas is, okay, not everybody, but a lot of people in Texas are super nice, very friendly. They're very hospitable. Yeah, that's just the way I saw it. And Texas is so big and everything's cheap down there. Everyone owns guns. And, I do believe that that's pretty important to have something like that. We don't have any sort of constitutional laws here in Canada that permit people to have guns like they do in Texas.
So what is it like? So I know you can get, in Canada, you can get a gun license.
Yeah.
What's it like comparison? How
So-
okay, A, the license, and then B, actually buying a firearm. I think you have some insight on that.
I do.
Like,
Yeah. So Mike is actually a licensed firearms owner, essentially, here in Canada. I do know, like, specifically for Texas, it's a matter of basically, like, I know there's certain rules that I can't really remember off the top of my head, but basically you can walk in, you fill out a form, they run it. As long as you're not, a criminal or there's something, on your file that prevents you from having a gun, you can basically walk out of the store more or less the same day. But that's because they believe in the utmost, in the most liberal way, they believe in the Second Amendment, whereas everyone is allowed to bear arms, right? Whatever arms might be. I mean, we're talking like arms could be anything. Arms, technically, nuclear arms are arms, right? So, I mean, some people would argue to the point where people should be allowed to own nukes, but I don't agree with that because that's obviously
No.
just pushing it a little too far. But, I mean, somebody should be allowed to have a gun in the house in the event they needed it for self-defense, right? So I think Mike would agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have pretty similar opinions with this. In Canada, the way it is we don't own guns for self-defense, whereas in the States you can. Canada, it's sports.
Yeah.
Right now,
or hunting.
Correct. Yeah, or hunting. A restricted firearm, so a handgun, for example.
Is there a difference in sports and hunting? Is there a classification or something?
Yes, technically there is. Yeah, so it's sports you would classify as somebody who just uses it for sport to, let's say, go to a range.
Oh, I see.
Right.
Okay,
Target
so
shooting.
like you join a gun club,
Okay.
for example,
I understand.
right? And then hunting obviously is hunting. You're going out to hunt to catch stuff to eat, right? For indigenous people do that, right? They live off the land, so they legitimately have to hunt in order to survive. So
no, right now you can't transfer a restricted firearm anymore. They passed that law this year. So
is it all restricted firearms? Like, so we're even talking rifles?
There are some rifles that are considered restricted. So if it was, for example, AK-47, the Canadian version obviously is a lot different. You can't buy it. You can't transfer it right now. If you already own one, you can shoot it at the range. You can't sell it. You can't acquire new ones.
Can you buy ammunition?
That's a good question.
So, to my knowledge, certain types of rifles have been banned in Canada.
Yeah.
So, for example, the AR-15, the AK-47, big scary looking gun. Excuse me. You can no longer purchase in Canada. Technically, you're not even supposed to have one because the government had a buyback program while they were sending out letters to people. And they were basically saying your gun has now been completely restricted and is completely banned in the country of Canada, and we will give you $100 to take it back from you. As far as I know, certain firearms like those in particular, there's a specific round that's used in an AK-47, if I'm not mistaken, right? So
don't quote me. I'm not sure. I don't remember.
You don't know?
Maybe
Okay.
a 227.
Okay. So what I've heard is that the specific round that you would use in an AK-47, you can no longer actually purchase in Canada, and you're not even legally allowed to sell them to anybody else, like you said, right? It's just, it doesn't make any sense. Well, first of all, the government is so stupid because you can purchase a gun from what I've heard is called the Chris Vector. Does that sound right to you? I've heard the name before, and I've heard it compared very similarly to the AR-15, which would be, some people have suggested it's probably the closest available rifle that you can get in Canada to the AR-15.
Right.
And those are allowed. So those are not banned as far as I know.
What a lot of people forget, especially me when I was young and I was getting my license. By the way, it's a weekend course in Canada. It's a Saturday, Sunday course to get you non-restricted and you're restricted. So for layman's terms, non-restricted hunting, restricted not hunting, handguns, weird stuff. What a lot of people don't realize when they're getting their license is when the ban wasn't on of restricted firearms, you can buy at the time AK-47 type rifle. In Canada, they were only allowed to be pinned to 5 rounds.
That was before.
You could have had the gun. You could only have 5 rounds in it, and it's semi-automatic, not fully automatic. Whereas in the States, obviously, you can have, in some states, you can have fully automatic rounds.
No, fully automatic is banned, I
is
believe,
it?
in the States. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, and even in the US, it was banned. I believe when Obama was in office, they banned fully automatic. You can still get semi, but you cannot get fully automatic anymore.
Yeah.
Fully automatic is only considered for law enforcement,
Makes sense.
military use, things like that.
Yeah, so pinned to 5. A lot of people don't realize that. You can buy it, but you're not going to be able to have fun with it the way some people want to have fun with
Exactly.
it, right?
Now they pinned it to 3 rounds.
I'm not sure,
I think the new law restricted all guns to be pinned at 3 rounds, which is kind of ridiculous. So imagine you are getting chased by a pack of wild boar. Have you ever seen people get chased by a pack of wild boar?
No, I'm not.
No?
It looks
Okay.
scary. They're vicious.
Oh, they're
bet.
horrifying. They will eat a small child.
Damn.
No problem. There's been stories that I've read that a pack of wild boar and also hogs and things like that, they will literally they have eaten small children and other, you know, fully grown adulted humans. And it's crazy to think about, but if there are 4 hogs and your gun is pinned at 3 rounds, you don't have time to change your magazine. You better have 4 rounds and good aim, right? And you better take some headshots. Otherwise, those hogs, if one survives, you're in trouble, right? And that's a very, very big problem, because in Canada, you're no longer allowed to have more than 3 rounds. And that was with the new law when they banned handguns. Yeah, when they restricted handguns, it was like what would they call it? A freeze or whatever.
They froze all transfers.
Yeah.
So before you purchase a restricted handgun, you have to apply for a transfer through the RCMP, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, whether that's from a private owner or from a retailer, a dealer. That transfer needs to get approved. You get a permit, then you can go pick it up. It's not like in the States where you pass whatever check you're doing, you walk out with it that day. Yeah. It's very different. Now transfers are banned on non-restricted firearms. So, sorry, restricted firearms, not non-restricted.
Yeah. A lot of people I know have been able to keep certain rifles, like the AR-15, but only because they were grandfathered in, or I don't know, some weird loophole or whatever it was. They were military and they got grandfathered in, and they were able to keep the rifle or whatever. But
so during that buyback that happened with the government, were they just sending out letters and hoping people were doing it, or were they
pretty much? Yeah.
Like, were you an owner at the time?
At the time when they sent these letters out, I didn't have any of those type of firearms, but I have friends that do.
Yeah.
They sent out a suggestion letter, I guess you can call it.
Suggestion letter.
I might be saying it wrong, but you know what you should do, what you could do, what might happen.
Here are your options, essentially.
Yeah. They've yet to enforce anything.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, what are they going to do? Right? Yeah. They're going to come knock on your door and be like, hey, I'm, Jack Watson from the RCMP, and I'm here to take your I'm just making up a name, but I'm Joe Blow from the RCMP, and I'm here to take your guns away, right? So, I mean, at that point, like, what are you going to do? Okay, here you go, I guess, right? So, but remember, when it comes to guns, what happened in Cuba? Are you guys familiar with the story of communism in Cuba? No? So basically what had happened in Cuba, and most people don't even know this, Fidel Castro never admitted that he was a communist until after he took power. I don't know if you guys are aware of this. So he never, when he started saying, revolution sort of thing, right? We're like, yeah, get your guns and we're going to kill, what was his name? Batista or whatever? I think that was the name of the dude who was there, who was totally corrupt. Like the government pre-Castro was already corrupt. But what most people didn't realize is that Castro himself was super corrupt at the same time. But like in most popular fashion, they never admit and they never say this is what we really want to do. And this is kind of like the same thing with like Hitler. Like Hitler, yes, he used the Jews as a sort of scapegoat to kind of convince people to be on his side, but he never outright, it was like a progression until he finally, became the Hitler of the Nazis, right? And Castro kind of did the same thing. He had the same effect.
Seems like the good guy at first.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. So it was Fidel with Che Guevara, and basically they fought the military. They rebelled. They took power. All those people fled the country. And after that, they're like, yes, we now have power, and power to the people sort of thing. And then after that, he's like, oh, yeah, by the way, guys, we're communists now. I just wanted to tell you that. I may have forgotten to mention that a few times before. And if you don't mind giving us all your guns, right? And then now, have you guys ever been to Cuba before?
Yes.
You've been?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Beautiful country. Did you go to Havana?
No, I went to Cayo Santa Maria.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I've been there too. Which resort did you go to?
Royalton.
Ooh, that's the nice one. I wanted to go to that one. Yeah, that was like,
was great.
That was like one of the top resorts at the time. Yeah, I went to the one next to it a couple of times. Yeah. Trash, absolute trash. Beautiful beaches, but Cuba overall is a beautiful country. But if you go there now, it is falling apart. It's falling apart so badly to the point, because you got to remember, Cuba is like what, 400 years old or something like that. Like a lot of the buildings in Havana are from the Spanish colonialization era. I probably still said that incorrectly, but whatever. So the buildings are extremely old. And when I went to Havana for the very first time, if you're just driving down the street, you see buildings completely collapsed. Like there's just a pile of rubble. So I remember asking the tour guide, because we took a bus. I think we were staying in Veradero or something like that. I'm like, yeah, I really want to go to Havana. And that was the first thing that I noticed. So I asked the tour guide, I'm like, yo, what's up with the buildings? Like it was like you'd be driving down the road and it's like every fourth building has just completely collapsed. You're like, yo, what's happening? She's like, oh, we don't have enough money to maintain the buildings. Things are not that great here right now. And she's being very candidly. She's like, yeah, just last week there was a house that collapsed and killed 4 children. They were playing next to the house and the house literally fell on top of them. And she's like, yeah, the government, they don't have enough funds and they can't maintain all the buildings, because you have to remember, in Cuba, the government owns everything. You don't own your own house. The government owns it. You don't own your own business. The government owns it. All the resorts all have a piece of the pie. The government has a piece of the pie in all the resorts, right? Majority of them. And yeah, it was bad, right? Like we would go to certain restaurants and you'd be like, I'd like to order this. Oh, sorry, we don't have that. Okay, how about this? No, we don't have that either. Okay, how about this? No, we don't have that either. So what do you have? French fries. That's it? Literally just French fries? Okay, I guess I'll get French fries, right? There was like there's always shortages of everything. I think that's why when you go to Cuba, the food is so horrible on the resorts, because there's literally not enough to feed everyone, right?
When we went, I was anticipating bad food, because they have that.
Well, you went to the Royalton, so it wasn't so bad.
Yeah, no, it was great food. But when you're going to Cuba, everyone always says, the food's not good. You're gonna have some stomach problems for sure. No, I had great food. It was. It definitely tasted very different.
Yeah,
I don't want to say bland, but like maybe a little unseasoned.
Yeah, that was the thing. It was like, so I remember, because I went to the Royalton, I think in Veradero, because there's 2 of them. Yeah. I think there's 2 or 3 in Cuba, and we went to the one in Veradero, and it was fantastic. But every other place that I've stayed at in Cuba, the food is just very poor. Yeah, but like you said, like for some reason bland. The funny thing is, on the resorts, they don't cook the food like they would outside of the resort. Because I don't know if you've ever eaten the food like maybe in the downtown. Well, in Cayo Santa Maria, you can't do that, because in Cayo Santa Maria, you're an hour and a half from the mainland. Yeah. So, but when I went to Veradero, we went to Havana, and it's like the food that we did find was actually like, when you go to the tour, you go to like this random building and they feed everybody, and the food was fantastic. But then you eat on the resort and it's like, this is garbage, right? But I don't know. They got so many problems. I remember the first time I went to Cuba, I was actually able to get a plan. It was called the Roam Like Home. That was when Rogers was first rolling out Roam Like Home. And basically what that was is that you could, for a daily fee, you could use your phone as if you were at home. The first time I went to Cuba, it worked. I did it. The only thing that wouldn't work was Snapchat. And the reason why is because Snapchat had been banned in Cuba, and the reason why is because porn is illegal in Cuba. I'm not sure if you were aware of that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so people will send pornographic images to one another on Snapchat. It was easy to do because you could hide it, right? Because the Snapchats delete after what, like
24 hours they delay. Is
that what it is?
They disappear. Yeah.
Right. So that's why Snapchat was banned. But whatever. The following, I think I want to say like 2 months after I got back home, I got an email from Rogers saying, we regret to apologize, but Roam Like Home is no longer available in Cuba because the infrastructure cannot handle it. So we have to cancel the whole program. So basically what they're saying is, next time you go to Cuba, if you decide to ever go back, your phone will not have the option to have Roam Like Home. So you're basically getting shafted. But yeah, things are bad there, man. You're not able to speak out against the government. I remember recently they were having, the people were upset. They were having riots. The media was claiming that, they were rioting because they wanted vaccines. I'm like, what? Like, nobody riots over wanting vaccines. Like that's ridiculous. They were apparently, the truth was that they had no food. People were on the verge of literally starving to death. So, and the government wasn't doing anything to help them because the government obviously has full control over there. And they started rioting over food. And what did the government do? Well, at first they were peacefully protest. There were a few riots here and there. Things were starting to kind of hit the fan. But the government went in and quickly shut that all down. Like they went in and they were brutal. Like the Cuban government is very brutal. The people there are very afraid of their government. So,
and they give everything to the resorts first.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, the resorts essentially fund the entire island, right? Without tourism, Cuba would be literally broke at this point, right? So, but the whole point is that people gave up their guns, and when the tyrannical regime took over, which was Fidel Castro and friends, basically it was game over. Like you can't fight back against a tyrannical regime, right? So, in my opinion, keep your guns. Get more if you can. Legally, of course. Be responsible. Learn how to use your weapons, right? I'm going to hopefully take the course soon as well here, but the only problem that I've been finding is finding availability. It's
popular right now.
It's really popular because of all the rules, and everybody's like, holy crap, dude, like look at what they're doing. They're taking away everything. Recently, there was even there was actually legislature that was put forth into the House of Commons here in Canada, which would basically be like Congress for the Americans. Basically, they wanted to pass a bill that was banning certain types of hunting rifles. We're talking things that were used to kill ducks. And everybody's like, what?
I never understood that. I didn't understand that.
Right? I didn't understand that either. It's like you're literally using, like you're banning bird shot, essentially. Like you can't, like you can hurt a human with it, but the odds of killing them, you might blind them if it hits them in the eye. But apart from that, you probably won't kill a human with bird shot, right? So why? Like why do things like this? And it's evident that by step, everything that they're doing, that they want to basically
take away all the power from the people.
Exactly.
Yep.
Right. And big warning, Cuba. Cuba's a huge warning. If you look at what happened to them after they gave away their guns, they found out that their government was communist, which obviously they didn't know that beforehand. Otherwise, people would have been like, no, they probably would have disagreed with the government and never let what had happened. Right. And that's pretty much where we're at. I mean, I love Cuba. Cuba's a freaking amazing country. It's absolutely super beautiful. But
isn't it pretty safe for Canadians too? Because they can't let anything happen to any tourists, right?
Totally. Yeah. Totally. It's I've never experienced it. To me, people were always relatively nice. So, I mean, we made friends there. Like, they invited us to their house.
Right. That was you and Frank, right?
Yeah, it was me and Frank. I'm trying to remember when the hell we went. I think that was the first time we went. And we basically... So, remember where the Royalton was?
Yeah.
Remember there was that pathway that goes to all the stores, and there was a club and whatever?
Like a little mini village they have for the tourists set up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, basically, like, every second or third night, we would go to the club there. And, you know, we'd be hanging out, partying, have a lot of drinks, way too many drinks to even count. We would be partying, and then we became friends with the people who actually worked there. They were like the entertainment crew of the club. And by the end of the week, they had invited us to their house. Frank ended up going with another Canadian girl who was like borderline. It was really weird. She was like borderline living there off of the resort. She was like illegally working, I guess you could say. So I think she was from like Edmonton or something. And, right. So she went there and, she would rent a car and then she would charge tourists to take them around.
Great idea.
It's a
fantastic idea.
It was a fantastic idea. If you want to live somewhere illegally, make a couple of bucks and then be able to afford to, you know, stay there for like 3-4 months at a time. But I'm pretty sure she's probably not allowed to do that. Anyways, yeah. So she ended up bringing him to their house and they hung out, and then late that night he eventually came back. But yeah, it was fun. I can't complain becoming friends with those people. And then when we went back, we ended up hanging out with the same people again. We ended up taking them for dinner or whatever.
So what's the,
Yeah, go ahead.
forgive my ignorance, what's the situation? I've always heard that Americans can't go to Cuba. What's the situation? Is that okay? Is that true? Am I wrong?
I
So
heard that too.
as far as I know, Americans cannot go to Cuba because of the war back in the day.
Okay.
So basically, do you remember when the Cubans wanted to nuke the United States?
Yeah.
So are you familiar with the story at all?
No.
Okay. So
Forgive my ignorance.
it's okay. So back in the day, if you remember, essentially when Kennedy was president, the Russians were essentially in a Cold War with the United States, which technically kind of included us here in Canada as well. I mean, we're just north of there, so had they gotten nuked, we would have had the fallout from it as well. So basically, the Soviet Union were against the Americans, vice versa as well. What had happened was the Soviets moved a bunch of nukes into Cuba because Cuba was in an alliance with Russia. They had trade pacts. Obviously, they're both communists, so they got along real well. So the Russians moved nukes secretly into Cuba. Now, Cuba is about 80 miles, give or take, off the coast of Key West, Florida.
Not far.
Not far at all, which is the most southern point in the United States. So the most southern part of North America, actually. So the Americans eventually find out that the Cubans are hosting the nukes for Russia. And obviously that was bad because, I mean, you got nukes that are directly being pointed at the United States, also us. Now the United States is like, hold on here. Then they got themselves armed and ready to go. Then later on, obviously, they basically told Cuba, if you do this, we're gonna essentially ruin you. And I remember hearing stories along the lines of Fidel Castro essentially saying, do whatever you want, because he hated America so badly. He was willing to sacrifice every Cuban person. That's how evil this dude was.
Wow.
Like, this guy was bad. He was bad news. Like, people think Saddam Hussein was bad. Bro, Fidel and Che Guevara were like on a whole other level. Like, they would torture homosexual people for gain. It was a game for them, right? Yeah, it was absolutely insane. And and then ever since then, it's just been basically like bad blood because of the embargo, because the United States essentially said, we're not going to trade with you, and none of our partners are allowed to trade with you either, sort of thing. And that's basically why Cuba's kind of in a position that they are, because they don't really have natural resources. So in order for them to survive, they need to kind of do trades and stuff like that. And essentially Cuba survives off of tourism, rum sales, and cigar sales, right? And you can't find cigars. Like, Cuban cigars are not available in the United States, right? So because of essentially the bad blood and embargoes that are still continuing, when Obama was in power, basically he was actually trying to lift the embargo and starting to allow Americans into Cuba. I do believe Americans who have family there are allowed to visit, I think.
I just Googled it and it said, and this is just some website, but it said that your American passport is valid in Cuba.
It's valid, but I don't think the Cuban government actually allows, like, for tourism. That's what it is.
They might have changed.
I believe, because it said 2023.
Yeah, I think it's a fairly.
I believe
recent
travel is
update.
okay.
Maybe
But
they did.
this is just some website. I haven't done all the research, so I'm not sure.
I don't know. As up until now, for the longest time, America. So I remember when I went there the first time, Obama was in power and he was trying to lift the embargo and allow Americans to go and travel there, or trying to convince the Cubans to let Americans travel there is what it was. And I remember going there and asking the Cuban people, like, hey, you excited that the Americans are coming? And they're like, no, we don't want Americans.
Well, anywhere you are, for the most part, anywhere you are internationally outside of Canada, nobody wants Americans.
Yeah, okay. For the nah, hey, you want to say that again and stare at the camera when you say it? No.
Forgive my ignorance.
No, it's
Like you said, they have bad blood that goes back
it's history
since the
man.
Cold War.
Yeah.
So since these people were kids and before then, they've been taught Americans are bad. Americans are bad. It's all brainwashing.
That's
right?
exactly what it is. They've told their people for so long that the Americans are bad, and If the Americans come here, I guess I don't even know what the hell they're telling them. What, Americans are going to take over and run the country for you, and you don't want that because capitalism bad or something like that. I don't know. I don't know what they're telling these people, but like, dude, if Americans were to go there and they lifted the embargo, I mean, the country would be significantly better, right? Yeah. It wouldn't be in such a terrible position that it's in these days, but they've never managed to resolve their stuff because Cuba has always had a tyrannical government. That's the main problem, right? So they don't have elections. It's always been a transition of power. When Fidel was in power, he got sick. He transferred power to his brother, and then his brother got old, so he transferred power to like his cousin or whoever it is now. And that's just the cycle of how things go. It's kind of like if you're looking at North Korea, right? We had Kim Jong-il. Kim Jong-il passed away, passed it on to Kim Jong-un, and he basically runs the country in more or less the same fashion.
And it looks like he's bringing up his daughter to take the reins eventually too. She's been making some public appearances.
Oh wow! Yeah, I think I heard about something like that. That's crazy.
She's very young, like she's young adult. But
I don't know, man. It's North Korea's weird. I've seen some like people go there and kind of like the way they've documented, and everything's so fake. Everything that they show you as a tourist is completely fake.
Didn't not Joe Rogan, sorry, Seth Rogen, didn't he make that movie, The Interview?
Yes. Yeah, was it The Interview? For some reason I was thinking the Dictator, but that was the Adam Sandler one.
Is that Adam Sandler or Sacha Baron Cohen?
Sacha Baron Cohen. Yeah, sorry.
So right. the movie The Interview, I think it was pretty realistic, and so it was banned in North Korea.
Oh, really?
And it was literally like I have zero research other than watching this silly movie, and it's literally like accurate, you're walking through the town and it's like a movie set. Yeah. So and have you seen that that North Korean girl who escaped and did Rogan?
Yep.
Yeah. The stuff
she's been on a lot of shows. I listened to her whole thing on Jordan Peterson's podcast, and my God, like the things that poor girl went through. Even before her, I had already started doing my own research on like people who've managed to escape, right? Which is a hard thing to do. Like even if just the willingness to try. Like if you survive and you're caught by the North Korean government trying to escape or defect to South Korea or China or wherever, they will kill you. That's it. Like there's no if and or about it. Like that country's just messed up.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like North Korea. It's I would go there. I probably shouldn't have said that. I take that back. I love North Korea and would totally love to visit one day and be allowed from the North Korean government to document everything past the fake storefronts.
There was a young guy not long ago. I don't know if he was Canadian or American. He went there and there's video of him taking a poster down off a wall. I don't know, a propaganda poster or something.
That's a big no-no.
They locked him up. They finally let him go. Again, I can't remember if this is in the States or Canada, but they sent him home and they took him off the plane. He was unconscious, in a coma, and he passed away.
I think I remember hearing about that. Yeah, I don't know the details about it, but
I can't remember either. But it's just heart-wrenching story.
Yeah, if you go to a place like North Korea, I would suggest being very, very careful of some of the things that you do. I know that even taking something so simple as taking a picture of a bust or a statue of a political leader, which would be Kim Jong-un, it is actually illegal to take a picture of part of the statue. So let's say you try to take a cropped photo. You have to, the only way it's legal is you have to take a photo of the entire statue. Right? And what else is there? There's only certain approved haircuts, right? Like a guy can only has like 3 options of haircuts. And of course, Kim Jong-un is, his haircut is the most popular. I don't know how that happened, but
sometimes when I get my haircut, my wife calls it the Kim Jong-un haircut. She's like, I don't like that haircut. I'm like, come on.
Too bad. It's done. It's done. In other Canadian crazy news, apparently we're just going over Canadian stuff today, but I feel like a lot of people don't know this around the world. So let me pull up this article here. There is somebody by the name of Paul Bernardo, and I'm sure some people have heard me mention this before, and a lot of people are really pissed off about this. Mike was actually one of the ones that brought it up, and I'm like, oh, that's funny, because I actually wanted to talk about that too. So for those of you that don't know, Paul Bernardo is one of the most notorious serial murderers, killers, rapists in all of Canada. There was 3 murders that actually made him the most famous, and they were all underage girls. One of them being his wife's sister, where he essentially drugged her, attempted to, do the deed, and with his wife's permission, which was disgusting, and she died. Yeah. And then the other 2, what was it? He raped, murdered them, and then just like one of them he like cut up into pieces or something. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, very, very bad stuff.
Yeah.
Dismembered.
Unspeakable things. But yeah, this guy, since then, I think that was like the 90s when that happened. I think we were all babies at the time. Yeah. And he had been put into maximum security prison, and recently he was transferred to medium security prison. And this Mike is literally shaking his head because he's just like, it's frustrating.
I don't get it.
I don't understand either. Like, I don't understand why they would do that. But it says prison transfer, not about revenge, former official says after Bernardo moved. One of the architects of the law that governs Canada's prison system says it's understandable people want revenge on killer and serial rapist Paul Bernardo, but that's not what the prison system is designed for. Mary Campbell also says it is regrettable the Corrections Service of Canada has not been more transparent in how it handled the matter and what the law allows it to be. Campbell, a lawyer who retired from her role as Director General of Corrections and Criminal Justice Directorate in the Public Safety Department in 2013, said that without question, Bernardo's crimes were horrific. I mean, yeah, obviously. Broadly speaking, the correction system has a mandate to rehabilitate offenders. How do you rehabilitate somebody like that? That's disgusting. Politicians from all parties and levels of government have decreed Bernardo's transfer from maximum security penitentiary to a medium security prison in Quebec. News of the transfer was confirmed last week by the lawyers of the families of the 2 victims, Kristen French and Leslie Mahaffey, who want him sent back. And honestly, I would not disagree. I don't understand why they're moving him at all. Put him in for, okay, if you're gonna move a guy like that, just put him in Gen Pop.
Yep.
Right?
Doug Ford was
Gen Pop.
Gen Pop.
Gen Pop.
Gen Pop being general population, which means you're with everybody in the prison. You, other than when you're in your cell,
yes,
you're eating with everybody. Absolutely. You're in the yard with everybody. And what would happen to someone like Paul Bernardo in Gen Pop, Angelo? What would happen the first day?
I don't know. Maybe he'd be playing hopscotch with the other inmates or something like that. I don't know, man. I don't get it. Like, this dude is worst Canadian in existence ever. Like, he was just, even before he got caught, he was like, even before he started doing all like the really, really bad stuff you were mentioning before, that
career criminal.
Right. He was going around, what was he doing?
Bootleg cigarettes across the border, Buffalo, New York. Petty stuff, but enough that he had enough money to buy a big house, had the bling, and somewhere along the line his mind cracked, to say the least.
Like, he was known as the Scarborough rapist, and like, disgusting. We're talking probably hundreds if not thousands of people over the years. Like, really, really bad stuff. But
so is he already? Did they make the move? Is he in?
I believe so. Yeah.
Now?
Yeah, I think he's already there. But yeah. Another thing I wanted to talk about was, does AI have the potential to destroy the world? Does anybody? What is everybody's like? What were you not expecting?
Sorry,
that?
so it was just a quick departure from Paul Bernardo to AI.
I know. I
was just looking.
Is there anything else really to say about him?
Well, no,
or?
you just asked, and it says that he was moved last week to medium security.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So it is confirmed. It's been done.
I'm just looking up the BBC.
And just so everyone knows, his significant other is free.
Carla. Yeah,
Yes.
that was
Is,
like 10 years ago or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah,
She was
she
let
was
out.
longer, I think.
Changed her name.
Yeah.
I don't remember much
Educated.
else. But
She went back to school. She
Yeah.
got degrees. She's married. Apparently, she's got kids.
Mm-hmm.
This is someone who's helped, kill a few people.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
So what is the so they and I mean I don't know, I'm not saying this because I agree with it, but they're saying anybody can change type thing. So take him out of maximum security, put him into whatever this is called, medium security, general population. And she was let out. Nothing happened with her ever since. She never did anything again. Can people like that change? And then, conversely, was she just one of his tools in all of this?
So yes, I think that's exactly what it was. So I think she was kind of used in the matter to help, because as far as I'm aware, she was a veterinarian assistant or something like that, something along those lines, right? And she had access to certain drugs that he wanted, and I don't really think they had a great relationship, to be honest. And what she always claimed was that she was afraid, and that's why she never left. That's kind of why she went along with everything that happened. And I guess she kind of just didn't really know how to deal with it, because I mean the dude was batshit crazy.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he was absolutely insane. I read the book back in the day. I mean, the book was heavily influenced by her, but I mean the proof is there. Like, we know what they did. And yeah, I don't know. I guess most of like what happened was mostly because of him, and she just kind of went along with it for one reason or another, whether she had become too heavily influenced, like in the form of brainwashing. Maybe she was just she claimed obviously she was very afraid for her life. I mean, obviously, and what I think people were mad about with her is that she could have handled it differently, right? Like, she could have gone to the police, right? And the hope would have been that, the police obviously would have looked into it and actually listened to her and helped her and made her help them stop him from doing anything else, even after the first murder, or the first set of things that had occurred. And I think that's what most people are kind of upset about. And I would agree with that. Like, she could have done her due diligence at the end of the day and actually said something about it, instead of just hiding and cowering and being afraid of Paul Bernardo. Like, have you ever seen pictures of Paul Bernardo? Like, he looks
evil.
He's
evil. Pale. He's got
They were called
eyes.
the two of them were called the Ken and Barbie killers because of their looks.
Yes.
So he was in some way a good-looking dude.
Yes.
However, rotten to the core.
Okay, so he was a good-looking dude, but he had a very punchable face. That's my opinion. Like, when I see Paul Bernardo, I don't know if it's just because we know what he did, but I see his face and I just want to repeatedly punch it.
Going back to what you said, rehabilitation. Sure, I mean, I'm sure everybody can get rehabilitized.
Oh, of course. I mean,
But
you can try anyway.
There has to be a line.
That's right.
Right? And I think they did more than cross that line.
Yeah.
Whether you're better psychologically or not, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You're never coming out of jail. You shouldn't be breathing. There's a line that when you cross it, rape, murder, young women, doesn't matter after that. You got to go away. You got to go away for a long time.
Agreed.
I don't know if this conversation is gonna spark something, but what if it was the other way around? So this was 1993 or 95 or something.
Early
they were arrested.
90s.
So what if it came out that it was all her and he was the tool? So this would he, as a man, be 10 years ago released and she would be rotting still? Excuse me, just transferred now. Because
If it was like now, you mean? Or just like, even if it
just
was...
were the roles reversed. Just was the man the one who claimed that, you know what, this was I was scared for my life. Is it because she was a woman? Is that why she is now
I don't
out?
Think, no. I don't think gender had anything to do with it.
No.
I think she got off easy because she was the first one to open her mouth. She, in a lot of ways, ratted him out.
Yeah, she gave them a lot of information that helped get the indictment.
Yeah,
because they were on him for a very long time.
Yeah,
right. So I mean, he had committed the 2 murders. He had thousands of other things that we had mentioned that he had done to other women, all across the GTA, mainly in Scarborough. And I think you even might have mentioned that it was partly Mississauga as well. Which everything's kind of close together here. Everything's within like a half hour to an hour in this area. So he could have been literally anywhere doing whatever it is that he wanted to do. And I don't know. It's she was the first one to flip. Unfortunately, that's what happened. They should both still be there. Yeah, there's families now that are reliving this because
that's right.
You just pulled up this article of him being transferred to a medium security prison, and these are local families to us. They probably live 30 minutes away from where we are, and now they're reliving it, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah, man, I don't understand why they're doing it, and it seems very like we read the article and there really wasn't anything in there that explained why they're doing it. And then every time I was reading like replies on tweets about it, they all said the same thing, like bring him to Gen Pop. I'm like, yeah, I kind of agree with that. Right? I mean, somebody's gonna off him. If he ends up in Gen Pop, somebody's gonna off him, right?
Doug Ford said they should put him in Gen Pop, and they were having a parliament debate about this, and he said it outright.
I mean, it is what it is, but that's Paul Bernardo. Oh yeah, so about what were we talking? AI. So AI having the
I am equally scared of AI as I am of Paul Bernardo.
Why? What scares you about AI?
No, Terminator 2.
Oh, okay.
No, like I'm using AI almost every day now.
Really?
So the chat GPT of the AI, right? I'm using it to do things at work, and this is just the very simple basic thing. But you also see these articles that are coming out saying, AI has made I don't remember exactly. AI's made the decision to get rid of the human that's controlling it or something like that.
Yeah. So I had a conversation with some other people the other day about AI, more or less, and they were talking about people going around making artificial pictures of people. So imagine people making pictures of you with another woman, for example, and then suddenly publishing it online.
Cat mad now.
Huh?
You're getting cat mad now.
This is just a hypothetical cat. We're just making a hypothetical here, but basically the idea would be imagine somebody for some reason made a picture of you with another woman, and it almost kind of looked real. I mean, obviously you could probably point out certain things in these AI pictures that obviously make it so that way you can tell that it's actually not real.
That is right now.
It's happening.
Now we're there. I don't know. I'm saying yes, but it's gonna get better.
It is getting better. Yeah, and that's the scary part.
There is, and just maybe as an aside from AI, 3 years ago or something, when the PlayStation, I'm a gamer, so I know this. The PlayStation 5 came out. They released. So there's a company called Epic Games who made Fortnite and all that. They made a demo before the Matrix movie came out, where it was made in this engine called Unreal 5, and it
looks realistic.
Very realistic. They were putting pictures of Neo or Keanu Reeves from the movies beside this in Unreal, and some people couldn't tell the difference. So technology, AI, and that, it's getting better. We have already seen all these deepfakes and all this stuff. So it's getting better. Right now, we can tell from these pictures, but it won't be long.
But do you guys think that this is going to cause actual real world problems?
Only a matter of time.
Only a matter of time?
People are starting to get, scammed by it. And like you said, pictures, deep fakes. Poor Joe Biden. I think he's the prime example of tons of deep fake
Yeah.
videos. But
I
it's
mean,
only a matter of time.
the only reason I brought it up was because yesterday I saw there was a bunch of pictures because, okay, so right now you have the primary elections happening in the United States. So you have the two front runners of the Republican Party, Trump and DeSantis. And DeSantis, I'm not sure if you guys saw this. I could probably bring it up somewhere, but DeSantis posted a bunch of pictures of Trump hugging and kissing Anthony Fauci. Now, if you look closely at the photos, it was an obvious deepfake. But the problem is that DeSantis wrote real Donald Trump. So people actually believe that these photos are real.
Yep.
And me at first, I was like, okay, this obviously never happened, right? I mean, we know Anthony Fauci's a douchebag, Lord Fauci. But yeah, it was just like the fact that people actually were believing that these photos were real, right?
There's a lot of gullible people out there.
And that's
right?
the
a lot of gullible people.
That's the problem, right? So days before, I was having a discussion with somebody else about it, and I was like, I don't really think I think most people would realize that these photos are not real and they're not going to fall for it. And yeah, apparently I was wrong. So I kind of realized that, like you said, this stuff is getting so much better that it is going to interfere in a lot of the daily things that we do.
Can I give an example of that?
Yeah.
So there's been articles online talking about how some elderly folks are getting phone calls. Okay. I don't know if you've heard about this. Elderly folks are getting phone calls from a phone number that's not someone's a phone number that they recognize, but it's the voice of maybe a grandkid or a kid saying, I lost my phone. I need help. I need you to, I don't know, send money or whatever it is.
$4,000.
And the reason why, and there was a video done by some news website, I can't remember now, but they are taking voice recordings off of videos. So they did this with like a newscaster or something. They took this person's voice, they wrote what the voice was going to say, and they called someone that this person knew, and it was almost perfect, and it worked. And the person was like, "Okay, I'm coming." It's happening. And how often do the elderly get scammed? How often do our elderly get scammed, dude. Right?
Yeah.
So this is, and that's just where it is now. It's only going to get better.
Yeah, I had a friend, unfortunately he's passed away now. You remember Driveway Joe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I never told you?
I don't know.
Yeah, it was a very unfortunate incident. I'll maybe explain after what happened. But when he was alive, I mean, poor guy, he fell for that stuff more than once.
And how old was he? Ish.
Oh, he must have been.
He was easily in his 70s, right?
No, honestly, I don't even think so. I think he was like maybe 68, 69, something like that. Yeah. But yeah, he had some issues going on and some weird stuff happened. But yeah, he was falling for like these fake people, and they were using like the typical like romance scam type of things, where there was what's the most common one? They tell you they're in the military, hence why they're always never home. So, and then they eventually convince you that they're in love with you and they're going to come see you and whatever. And then they eventually convince you that to send some money. But yeah, he actually fell for that specific example, right? And I mean, being an older guy, you're not as familiar with the way technology works and how they can fake videos and phone calls and all that kind of stuff. Right. But I don't know, man. It's crazy out there. We're living in a crazy ass world. But yeah, I mean, originally I just thought that I'm like, hey, man, like people can't all be that dumb, right? Like people can't be falling for this stuff that easily. But apparently people are, right? I mean, most people are going to look at a photo of Donald Trump kissing Anthony Fauci on the nose and hugging him, and they're going to be like, oh, that's kind of weird. Why did he do that? And they're not going to think twice about it, that's not actually a real thing, right? So
do you remember during COVID, during one of Trump's COVID speeches, I don't know if he was serious or he was joking, but he alluded to maybe we should try drinking Clorox or something.
No,
I don't know, Lysol.
That's not what happened.
What did he say? And
that's
people were drinking this stuff, and
it was. So what he was referring to, because I remember looking this up, and I'll be honest with you, at the time, I wasn't really like paying attention as much as I am today. So of course, I read the same thing, that apparently Donald Trump is telling everybody to go and drink bleach and it's going to kill COVID, and that some people are actually trying it and getting very sick and ending up in the hospital. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, well, I want to know what he actually said, because that's the type of person that I've always kind of been. And of course, I open up the video of him talking about this moment, and it's not exactly what he was saying. Because then I actually started doing some research on it. And what he was referring to is an actual legitimate procedure that people do, right? To clean out your lungs and all sorts of stuff. And they have ones that they can send in you, and they send in this like really high powered like laser light or something, and they can kill things that are inside of there. So what he was referring to was actually a legitimate procedure that he was just happened to be talking to a bunch of doctors. He didn't really know what he was talking about, unfortunately, because I mean, Donald Trump is not a doctor. No. So it's like the way it came across as this like illegitimate thing that he was telling people to drink bleach, but that's not actually what he said. If you go back and watch the speech over and over again, or the press conference, whatever, you actually realize that that's not what he was referring to. He was referring to a legitimate medical procedure. And this happens all the time. I mean, the media lies so much, especially about him, that they would change things that he would say. They would say he would say one thing, and then you went back to the press conference and you realize that's not actually what he said. That's not what he's talking about. I mean, sometimes it's like, the dude would have to speak for 2 hours on end, especially during COVID, right? They were doing press conferences almost every single day. So, I mean, in an hour and a half in, you might misspeak. Even on this show, one of us might misspeak and say something that we didn't actually mean to say, right? And it happens.
And it just goes to show you, though, regardless whether he meant it or not, how gullible and how people can think and take everything for gospel, so to speak. And
exactly.
That's what he said, so I'm doing it.
I mean, they've done it so many times, especially to him. They were hell bent on getting him the hell out of there, right? So they would just say he would say this and he said that, and it was like, and then you would go back and it's like, dude, he literally never said any of that, right? He's racist, he's this, and I don't know, man. It's I've even had arguments with friends about things like this, and it's just like trying to convince them. It's like, dude, it's so simple. Just go back, watch the video, and you'll realize that you're wrong, right? You're just being told by the legacy media that this is what's being said, or this person said this. And most people, I mean, I get it. Most people at the end of the day, they don't have the time to go back and reread everything or rewatch every single press conference from every single, politician or important person out there. So I totally get it, right? But it's like, don't believe everything you read. Don't believe everything you see. Don't believe... At this point, we can't even believe every freaking video we see on the internet. At the end of the day, this video could be all deepfaked.
Aliens.
All aliens.
It's the aliens.
It's the aliens.
Exploring with Angelo. The aliens.
Oh my god. Yeah, that's that. But yeah, we're gonna have some major freaking problems. So there's a little bit of a thing that I wanted to touch on, and it's a little bit of a touchy subject, some would say. And it's a little bit of everything that's kind of happening right now in terms of, culture and politics and all that fun stuff. So recently, I was talking to a teenager, and he was just a barista at a bakery. He was making my coffee and whatever. We got on the subject somehow of the things that were happening in his Catholic schools. Or in his Catholic school in particular. I don't want to say which one. I don't even want to say the guy's name. But he was kind of saying things like, the things that are happening in my Catholic school are not very Catholic, right? And he was kind of referring, I'm like, what do you mean? Like, what's going on there? I think I was talking with somebody else about something, and he was kind of overhearing it. And he just kind of like chimed in on the conversation and was just kind of like, yeah, you guys are right. So I was asked him like, what's happening? And he was referring to things like in his religion classroom, for example. So in a Catholic school, I remember Mike and I both went to the same school. In Catholic school, you have to take religion every single year from grade 9 to grade 12. Actually, even in Catholic elementary school, we had to do the same thing from basically kindergarten until the end of elementary. So anyways, back in the day, we had like pictures of Jesus and crosses and all that stuff all over the place. I mean, you probably remember that, right?
Yeah.
Right.
World religions. What was world religions? Grade 11, grade 12?
Grade 11.
Where you learned kind of not just about Catholic, but you learned about everything.
Everything.
You said grade 11?
Yeah, grade 11.
Yeah.
Which I thought was fantastic because I didn't know a lot. I always I like to learn a lot of stuff about different cultures, different countries, different religions. And I thought it was a fantastic part of the curriculum because I felt like I learned a lot about other people. Right, I learned a lot about Islam, Sikhism, Hinduism, Buddhism, cults, all sorts of things, even native religions, native beliefs, right? And I thought that was pretty cool because we were a very mixed culture in our school. So even though we were Catholic, we still had people from every aspect of life. At the end of the day, everybody was welcome.
So there was multiple religions welcome inside the Catholic school?
Yes. Yeah. So we had Muslim people, we had Hindus, Sikhs.
That's something that's new to me. Like I have heard of it before recently, but when I was young, when we had moved on to the street that we moved on to, at the very end of the street was a Catholic school, Catholic elementary school with, kindergarten and all that. And they wouldn't let me in.
I think elementary is different from high school.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Elementary school, you got to be baptized, I believe.
I see.
Not necessarily, actually. So my high school, so it was very strict, and they would only really let certain amounts of kids in. It was kind of weird, like how they
I remember.
did it.
I just in my specific situation, they said that I would have had to have been baptized too.
Right.
I remember that.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean,
but yeah, maybe it's just an age thing, and it's the elementary rules or something. That's just I'm just saying that it's new to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, for me in elementary school, it was like there was literally only maybe 1-2 kids in my grade that was not actually baptized. I don't remember why exactly. I just remember like one student is particularly like on my mind, and I remember when we would go and get Holy Communion, which is when they give you like the bread, the body of Christ. Yes. Yeah. They would go like this and they would just get a blessing from the priest, but no actual host, which is the bread essentially. But yeah, anyways, so I remember that from when I was in school, and it was very, very different from what it is today. And what I'm seeing, like what this kid told me is he told me that there was I guess, what would you even call it? I mean, I like to call it the rainbow flag, LGBT flag. Some people refer to it as the 2S LGBTQIA plus. How I even just remembered that, I have no idea. I even just impressed myself. But I don't even know what all those letters mean, to be honest, right?
I don't either.
No?
The only, I remember LGB.
I remember I remember exactly. Yeah, I remember that
Yeah.
as well. Totally besides the point. Now, I'd like to point out that we had a discussion beforehand here, and it's it has nothing to do with us caring about any of that kind of stuff, right? Whether you are gay or not, or trans, I could care less.
Yeah, no problem with it.
Right. I am a very libertarian person, and if you want to, if you're an adult, whatever, you want to dress up in a certain way, and you want to do certain things with your life, that's fine. I literally could care less. I've never cared. We have gay friends, like Moshi and I have mutual gay friends. We know.
I have gay friends. I have lesbian friends. I have trans friends. And I have nothing against it for you in your life. No problem.
No. I mean, we got questions about it.
Sure.
Absolutely. I mean, we always want to learn more about other people and things.
I think that's one of the biggest problems right now is people are scared because they're not educated enough about it. They don't know enough about it. They don't know how to react to it. And unfortunately, it can turn into a bad situation sometimes, but people need to be educated about it. Right.
But even like trying to ask questions, and this is something that I've noticed like through some of my family members, believe it or not, who would literally start a war at the kitchen table. God forbid you said something that was politically incorrect, or whatever it might have been. And it's like, you would literally get scolded, right? But I remember like a time before any of this stuff that everybody got along. It didn't matter if like growing up, like we didn't give it like two shits if somebody was gay or trans or whatever the hell they wanted to do, right? I mean, we'd probably ask, like I said, I was the type of person who would always ask questions because I'm curious about people and I always want to know more about this kind of stuff. But the problem that I'm noticing is that it seems almost like there's this weird conflict happening right now between religion or religious people in society and the non-religious people in society, especially the people who are major activists for the LGBT community, right? But you want to be an activist, that's fine. But the problem that I'm noticing is that it's not okay to offend them, but it's okay for them to offend us when we actually express our beliefs. And that's the major part that I've got a problem with, right? And it's like I said, I don't care what you do at the end of the day. I really, really do not. Where you want to, you know, who you want to sleep with at the end of the night, I do not care, right? It has nothing to do with me. But the problem is that they're not even trying to convince people about their beliefs or the ideology, but they are trying to force people or else. And that's the problem that I'm seeing, right? With all this cancel culture, all this wokeism, all this crazy stuff that's happening right now. And it's insane, right? Under no circumstances, as a Catholic, do I think the LGBT flag should be in a Catholic school, especially right now. The problem that I have is that he showed me, so this kid who goes to this Catholic school who was pointing out all these things happening, pointed out the fact that he literally took a picture of this and he had a picture of the cross on the wall of Jesus and the LGBT flag right next to it. Now, do I think the LGBT community is not important? I don't think that, right? I mean, I love everybody equally, right? And I don't think anybody should be discriminated against. And I think those people obviously should have rights and they should be respected, of course. But can I put that on the same level as my religion or God, who is supposed to literally be number one? The thing growing up was what? God, family, and then everything else came after that, right? That's what we were always taught. And I truly do believe that. And that's why I kind of feel like at this point that our beliefs in a way are kind of being disrespected. And that's why I think people are getting upset. And I think that's why all these conflicts are happening and everybody's kind of feuding with each other and not really understanding each other at the end of the day. Because everybody's trying to put one thing over the other.
Can I give an example of that?
Yeah,
I don't know if you've seen the video that came out of inside I think it was a public school where the Muslim kid. So I believe this week or last week there was possibly, and I don't know what the area, there was like a Pride Day.
I think
or
it's
something
in
like that.
Ottawa.
I don't know if it was something like that, Pride Day. Anyway, where the schools were celebrating it, and so people were choosing to not send their kids to school that day. I don't know if you heard about that. So there was a situation where, is that the one?
Yeah, I think so.
Where maybe some Muslim kids' parents were not sending them to school that day because they didn't want to have their kids be subjected to whatever it is that was going on at that time.
Yeah.
So that is one thing, but the fact that the students afterwards were then being berated. There's one specific video I'm thinking
There was a teacher
where the teacher was berating the student in front of the other students.
Yeah, so it was targeted at one student.
I think I just mixed two different references together, but it was one specific student, I think.
Okay.
She was berating the student for not coming,
for not participating.
Yeah, it was something along the lines of, oh, you expect to be respected as a Muslim in Canada, but you can't bother to come to school and show respect to all the LGBT community in the same school. You're not even Canadian. It was like some mean shit. Wow. Like, you don't say things like that, not to a kid, right? Like that's you don't say that shit to anybody in this country, right? No. Everybody's got differing opinions in this country. We should all respect each other. If we're going to debate about it, that's fine. But let's be, professional about it and respectful towards each other. We don't need to yell at each other and berate. I'm not going to, if Mike has a different opinion on something, I'm not going to tell him off and, be an asshole about it. What were you gonna say?
There's two things. We talked about it earlier in the podcast. Right now, we might be on the cusp of an election.
Yeah.
About a year or so ago, they called a snap election. What I think is making the situation worse right now is they're politicizing everything, the left and the right. Everybody. And let's face it, when we were growing up in high school, we didn't have Instagram and Facebook. And right now, social media is really making it worse. I think. But going back to what you said, certain kids not going to Pride Day, do you think them not going make it worse?
Yeah.
Them not going creates that hate with that teacher. Why aren't you coming? Right? The kids not showing up for Pride Day probably makes the situation worse. Send your kids to school. So what? It's Pride Day.
I don't know, man. I think it's I mean, at the end of the day, if it is their beliefs too, and it's like, you know, they just don't want to take part of it.
Yeah, I think because it's the things that are happening in the Pride Day.
That's
So
what
it's
I was just
not,
about to
you know,
say.
not that it is. And I don't know if Pride Day is a thing. I don't know if that, this is the,
I think that's
it was
just what they're calling it
some
because it's the
specific
first day.
that there was some celebrate. Anyway, so there was video of people going in. This is a separate video. There's videos of people going into the schools on this day, and there's people who are there dancing half naked, that kind of thing.
Right.
That itself fundamentally is not against, and I can only really speak for Islam, but is against Islam. I think it's against Christianity. I think it's against Judaism. And it's just, you know, and just their kids. Don't you want to protect your kids from that kind of stuff when they're young as well?
I mean, it's we have to remember that the LGBT thing is directly related to a sexual orientation, right? Whatever you do believe that you are, whether it is, you know, part of a mental disability, which has been proven now when it comes to gender dysphoria, it is a proven mental disability. It's a real thing, right? I mean, if you look at Elliot Page, we were talking about them earlier, and he spoke about punching himself repeatedly in the face, hearing voices, and then suddenly transitioned within 2 weeks into Elliot, and that's where we're at.
This is the actor, correct?
This is the actor from, we're referring to the actor from Juno, right?
Juno, Umbrella Academy,
great shows, by the way.
Inception, I think.
A couple different things. Really good at the time actress, now actor. But the point is that, like, we have to remember that this stuff is directly related to sexual orientation. And I feel like you're saying, it's become so overly politicized that people are literally losing, they're going bananas over this stuff and acting as if they're defending a legitimate religion at the end of the day. And it's not, right? And it's like, it's cool. You want to be who you want to be, that's fine, right? I'm not going to look at you any different. Whether Mike decides he wants to become Michaela, I don't care, right?
Can I tell you a story?
Yeah.
Kind of off the subject,
Yeah.
but when me and my wife first started dating, I was known as Michaela for the first year and a half. She didn't want to tell her parents that she was dating, so every time she went
I was
out,
going out with Michaela.
she said, "I'm just going out with Michaela. I'm going to Jamaica with Michaela."
Wow.
And then her dad met Michaela one day.
Hi, Michaela.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is what it is. I mean, we can go on for literally hours on this stuff. And there's a couple other things that I remember reading about. So for example, like a lot of the LGBT literature, quote unquote, there's a very specific book. It's called Gender Queer. I can't even really go into detail because what's essentially in this book and being pushed into schools everywhere.
So the book is being found in schools?
Yes, it's being found in libraries.
Elementary schools, or is it high schools?
Everywhere.
Okay, so just
everywhere.
Libraries.
So this is not even just the only book. There are other ones, but this is probably one of the best examples. There are literally pornographic images inside of this book. Now, I have not looked myself, but I've heard this book referenced many, many times on other podcasts, other pieces of literature that have spoken about it. And to my knowledge, to my understanding, there is a literal image of an adult giving a child, or the other way around, you know, doing things with a child. And this stuff is being pushed as, you know, LGBT material, educational material, when clearly it's like, dude, this is pornographic imagery. This cannot be. And if I was a parent, I had a kid in school, I would lose it. I would absolutely lose it if this was in. The funniest part is that I've seen many videos of parents going to like a parent teacher event or whatever for the school.
They're all freaking out.
Yeah, they're trying to reference what's in the book, like literally word for word what's in the book that they want no longer available in school for their children. They're reading the actual sentences, the actual paragraph in the book, and the people who are like basically kind of running the show of the parent teacher whatever are like, no, you can't be saying that stuff. They're getting mad at the parents for literally reading the book, right? Which kind of proves the point. Like, dude, if you think it's a problem, then why is this book even in this library to begin with? And this kid that I referenced was saying that it's here. It's here in Brampton, right? Like in our Catholic schools, we have books like this. And I told him, I'm just like, just out of curiosity, how many Bibles are in your library at school? And he couldn't answer the question. I said, just as a, just for fun, you should go and compare. You should count how many of these types of books, like legitimize which ones are actual educational material versus which ones would be considered almost pornography at this point. And then compare it to how many Bibles are actually available in the, just because it would be interesting to know, just to point out. Another thing that he mentioned, that they had a black only club, which was kind of like, huh? What do you mean by like black only club? And he said, it's for black students only. And I was like, why? Like for what purpose? Right? I remember we had like culture clubs back in our high school. We had the South Asian club and the Italian club and whatever. But I remember it being completely inclusive where anybody of any culture, it didn't matter if you were Greek and you wanted to join the Italian club or vice versa. That didn't matter, right? So I don't know. I just thought it was kind of weird that they're like doing all of this stuff. And I really don't get it. Like, why are you creating a club where essentially black only students are segregating themselves, right? Like that doesn't make any sense. Like growing up, we had... my group of friends was literally all over the place. I hung out with Spanish people, white people, black people, brown people, pink people. Like it didn't matter, right?
Our high school was very diverse.
Oh yeah,
we had international students. We had obviously local kids like us. We were very diverse. It was, and you mentioned the cultural days. I can't remember what we called it, but we had a day where, remember, we'd set up in the middle of the hallway, different foods from all different places in the world. Everybody would bring something. Yeah, that's what I remember. I remember the South Asian stuff was awesome. Because it's Brampton, right? Yeah, Brampton, So for those of you that don't know, where I live in Brampton, we have a massive population of people from India, people from Pakistan, literally all over the world. We have Italians, Polish, Lebanese, but majority right now I think is mostly like Indian and Pakistan. So it's like if you like that kind of food, we got Indian all food that in the GTA. It's bomb. Yeah, unless it's Tandoori Flame, don't go to that place because they'll probably kill you. Don't do it. No, it's bad. You've been to Tandoori Flame, right?
Why is it bad? It's been a long time, but
I don't know. It's first of all, it's just not good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not good. It's overpriced. I've heard they've had health issues in that place. I could be mistaken. So correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah. In general, I love Indian food.
Love it. Oh yeah, absolutely. Just
I think it's cool.
After.
I think it's a really cool culture.
After Indian food, Gaviscon is my best friend.
Gaviscon, Pepsid,
AC, Maximum, Complete.
But yeah, man, there's I don't know, man. There's so much stuff going on in the world. So I think we just took the record for the longest podcast so far.
Nice.
2 hours and 22 minutes.
Right? Like what time is it? Holy crap.
10:50.
Almost 11.
10:50. Amazing. I'm kind of glad that we ate before this.
Right?
Yeah, we literally ordered
it was good.
No, it was delicious.
Vesuvio's.
Yeah, Vesuvio's in Brampton.
Italian food.
Shout out to Vesuvio's. Go and show Maurizio some love. He's the owner.
Yeah.
He makes really, really good food. But yeah, I think, does anybody else have any other input about anything?
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you
no
so much for
problem.
coming on,
Podcast.
man.
You guys are
Yeah.
great. Yeah, no, thank you. It was
Hope you guys
interesting.
had some fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was
It was
good.
great.
Yeah.
Flew by.
Alrighty. Yeah, so we are going to go home, I guess, because I'm tired. Why are you going home? Going to bed?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
if the aliens don't take me out, they might be waiting outside for me.
Yeah, and just make sure you check outside the car before you, or check inside the car too, just in case they're hiding in there. You never know. But yeah, that's it for today's episode of the podcast. Yeah, we're gonna probably we still have like 2 more guests, and then you're going on a little mini vacay, and then we'll be back after that. But there will be consistent videos on this channel.
As well as we should mention, you can now find us on Spotify.
That is correct. We are now available on Spotify and Apple
Podcasts as
I think
well?
it's just iTunes. I don't
Is
even
it?
know. Like I said, we don't know what the hell we're doing in here. I probably mentioned that every other time, but we're still learning things about how this whole podcasting thing kind of operates, and the ins and the outs and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But so far, it's been good. I've been having fun.
Yeah, today I just want to point out that I drank an Arizona Marvel Super LXR iced tea. This flavor was lemon lime, and I'm so glad that our guest Mike actually accepted my offer of one of those. Which one did you have?
Dragon fruit watermelon.
Was it good?
It's delicious.
Is it?
Only 2 grams of sugar. It's got 13 vitamins, by the way.
Hey.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic.
I literally made you healthier by
did.
coming onto the podcast.
You did. I can feel the weight coming off as we speak.
Nice. But yeah, for me, I had a Stella.
I had one of those.
It's almost Mike had one too. Gotta show off the Stellas, and then Peroni. We're getting a little crazy tonight, so I went to the beer store and I saw Peroni, and yeah. But that's pretty much it. Smash the like button. I hope you guys had a lot of fun listening to us shoot the shit. Thanks again, Mike, for coming on. And
Thanks for having me.
yeah, we'll probably have you on again sometime in the near future.
Be more than happy.
Awesome.
I'll be here.
Cool. Yeah, subscribe if you're new. Turn those notifications on. Share this with your friends as well. And we will see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.